couchtripper.
Good evening, if you're watching this in the evening. Good morning if it's after midnight. And hello to your mum if you're watching it in a family sort of Christmas setting. Obviously, when you buy a DVD, you usually get lots of exciting special features, deleted scenes, bloopers, making of, theatrical trailers, that kind of thing. Unfortunately, the only extra you've got for your, whatever it was, $24.99, is a commentary by us. My name's Harry Thompson. I'm the producer of this show, and I co-wrote it with the gentleman on my right.
I'm Sean Pye. I'm the co-writer. This is the second take we've done because they've had to put a special filter over my microphone because I was just told I sounded too common. This is despite the fact we're both white, Oxford-educated men of a certain standing in society, I think.
And we would be obviously prepared to pretend to be black or female if it got us a job.
But luckily in this instance we didn't have to.
Not quite sure how that happened. He's also got an ugly filter on his microphone as well. Almost every physical defect you can think of has been filtered out technologically. It's incredible what they can do these days.
I'm wall-eyed as well, if any women are watching, listening to this, and just wondering who the man with the sexy voice is. Quite a fat, wall-eyed man. Anyway, this sketch, Harry, explain.
This sketch, oh right, well, this was actually the very first sketch we wrote. Isn't that exciting? It was written about 1972, which was when we first had the idea for doing Monkey Dust. Obviously, it was about 18 years to get it on the screen. And it was based on all those fabulous people who take millions and millions and millions and millions of public money to rename things. And specifically, I think it was Consignia, turning the Royal Mail into Consignia, that made us think of this one.
And the best thing about the sketch is, as soon as it actually went on air, they decided to change the name of the Royal Mail to Royal Mail, which made our satire quite brilliant.
And quite out of date, like the rest of this very antiquated but nonetheless marvellous programme. It was animated by some gentlemen who call themselves Vehicle, and they work for another company called Nexus. And I should explain that as well as being quite brilliantly talented, animators also have no social life and sit in front of computers all day growing pimples.
We should point out right at the beginning, the animators are the real heroes.
The real heroes.
Monkey Dust. This sketch in particular, if you were to read this on paper, it would read like a rather brilliant Radio 4 satire, which would make sort of middle-aged people laugh. But the animators, or as we call them, the alchemists, turn that lead into television gold, I think.
They'd make it funny.
With the visuals. So
terrific visuals.
We thank them.
We do thank them. However, I would like to point out that if you're a grown man and your names are Adam and Alan, that calling yourself Vehicle is actually not even as glamorous as forming a band. Sorry about that. Oh, now this is a very interesting bit here because you might notice in the middle of this sketch it goes off a complete tangent. And the reason for that is that when we started Monkey Dust, we managed to sell it on the rather exciting proposition that it'd be written by the very famous Rob Newman and Peter Bainham, amongst others. That's Rob Newman out of Newman and Baddiel. And it was, in fact, going to be written by lots of people, but there was a sort of endless process where the BBC and the company who employ us talked back, argued about money. By the time they'd finished, all these exciting people had gone. But Rob Newman did leave behind this idea, which made us laugh in a meeting. And it was the idea that all these names, like Consignia, are not thought of by men in suits in a meeting, but by a sort of Lord Byron figure who is global and who does all sorts of exciting things and really, really goes into agonies to think of these names. So well done, Rob.
Thank you. I hope he enjoys his £20 royalty cheque.
It's not as high as that. It's about £17.50 plus 3p for Greek royalties. Very interesting thing that this programme was actually pirated by Greek television. Did you know that?
It was?
It was amazing. We didn't get anything for that, but...
Right then. Cinema Hotline, Harry.
Cinema Hotline. Well, I would like to point out that when we started writing Monkey Dust, we obviously didn't have the faintest idea what we were doing. Some people would say that's still the case, but writing for animation is a particular skill. It's a blank canvas, animation.
You have an infinity of possibilities.
Anything
can appear on screen. You have not just everything in this world, but everything in any dimension. You can go anywhere, do anything, which is why we wrote a sketch about a man not getting through on a cinema hotline, sitting down in a street.
But I think you'll see as the show goes on, this very much develops visually. So we learnt from our initial mistakes. So stay with us. You know, have faith.
Indeed.
We're learning on the job, even as you watch. Now, Divorced Dad.
Now, this next sketch
He's going to butt in and tell you a lot of
very
lies
quickly.
Here,
is that this sketch is based on Harry. Harry has two children. He's forgotten what they're called because he's never sees them.
They're called Brian and Neville.
They're called something like that, but he never sees them. Partly because his ex-wife won't let him, and partly because he doesn't want to. because at weekends he plays cricket and he doesn't want to in any way impinge on that time by seeing his own children. So this sketch is entirely based on Harry's life.
Entirely based. The woman in the car, the good-looking woman in the car, is based on my ex-wife, and the sad, sort of pudgy man in there is me.
Many people have said that this is where we went too far in terms of emotion, and this is the worst sketch we wrote because this is so heartrending.
But compared with my personal life, it's actually quite jolly.
I have to point out that this, compared to Harry's life, is like Harry would love this relationship with his son because, as you can see from this sketch, this man's actually talking to his son and doesn't need a court injunction to even phone him up. So this is no way. This isn't emotionally bad for us because this was light relief for Harry in his sorry domestic life.
That's absolutely true. All of it, every last word.
Yeah. I hardly saw my dad when I grew up either, so in a way this was cathartic for me.
I'd like to point out that Sean, my co-writer here, although he has a common filter on his microphone, actually grew up in a castle. And his entire act is fake. He pretends to be a sort of common working man, and he doesn't shave in the mornings in a desperate attempt to look like a vagrant.
Getting back to the sketch,
but he actually grew up in a castle. He is actually Lord Toffingham.
The thing that me and Harry like about the sketch the most is we like the fact that it's utter human misery, which is very much the cornerstone of Monkey Dust. But the thing we like about it most, which you'll see at the end, is that we got to kill a man every week, which is the one of the raison d'etres of doing a cartoon.
I know,
isn't
it's
it?
so exciting. All those years watching the Coyote when you're a kid, and how many times does he gets killed? We actually get to kill somebody over and over again, and it's fine. It's the rules of cartoons, and people say to you, sometimes they say to me, what's the difference between writing for animation and writing for live action? And I have to say, in animation, you get to kill somebody over and over and over and over again.
I know.
To the sound of Goldfrapp.
And this bit is what my wife thinks is...
Yeah, it's supposed to be a vaguely satirical show, and there's no excuse at all.
I think when we first showed this, it was in a cinema, we'd first premiered this, that was the bit that was met with the least amount of sympathy whatsoever.
Yeah, fairly
And then the great thing is we follow the death of a father up with the near death of a girl.
Yeah, and that's a very good bit of animation. I would like to give credit to Jim Lefebvre. Well done, Jim. Now, this sketch is based obviously on our professional prejudices. The fact that David Baddiel, who we know very well, in fact, and we love. He's a lovely chap, and I used to produce his show. So there you go. But nonetheless, there is a slightly farcical aspect to his life, which he readily acknowledges, which is this assumption that comedians can do anything. And it's when you turn on Question Time and there's Joe Brand telling you how to solve the Middle East peace process. So that's what this is taking the piss out of. And David Baddiel very kindly came and did his own voice, which was very nice.
It was very nice of him.
Not only that...
And he does a wonderful David Baddiel voice.
He does an amazing David Baddiel voice, and nobody knows it's him. People keep saying... Occasionally people say, the bloke who did David Baddiel's not much good, is it? Is he? But the other thing that's quite interesting about this sketch is that the small girl trapped under the car is played by Morwenna Banks, who is not only a specialist in small girls, but is David Baddiel's wife. So they actually get to do this at night.
Right, here we get to the controversial part of the first series of Monkey Dust, which saw the controller of BBC Three, Stuart Murphy, above the headline...
Paedophile horror at BBC, it said in a tabloid with a photo of him. I just really wanted somebody to be reading that on the train and look up and see him on the opposite seat.
That's a nonce! Look at that, it says I can't be bothered to read the story, but Stuart Murphy's a nonce!
Poor Stuart Murphy.
That made us smile a lot. This was the controversial sketch. The problem we had with this...
He thought he was getting a satire show, and he did. When
we started writing, we did seriously start writing Monkey Dust back in about 2000 or something. Before that, when paedophilia hadn't really been invented as a sort of tabloid scare, and this sketch, I promise you, was at the very cutting edge of comedy at the time. The idea
Gillette
that
G2, this was.
An old man would attempt to use young person's lingo and get it wrong. This was the very pinnacle. The whole thing was slightly undermined by the time Monkey Dust came out by the fact the government brought out an advert, which was this sketch.
And they'd invented computers as well by the time this came out. Yeah, that was... well, we'll get back to that. He comes back over and over again because we have to move on to Begging Quickie, which we liked. It was written by... We didn't write this. It was written by Bert and George.
Two very talented writers.
Very, very, very talented writers.
They can't be here today because we haven't invited them.
And we'd have to pay them if we did. And much of the sort of professional professional raison d'etre behind Monkey Dust is trying to deny Bert and George the credit they justly deserve.
Well, more of that later when we've got more time. But that was a great sketch.
Oh, these are going quick, aren't they? Oh, now this is very interesting from an animation point of view, because you'll notice that we decided, hey, let's have a sketch set on a crowded train concourse, not realising that that's about 15 years' work for an animator. But animators get their own back, because they always come to you when it's a crowd scene and they say, how about doing this in a symbolic way? Maybe a series of stills fading into other stills. I actually fell for that the first time. But as you've noticed, we've really moved on with the
Cinema
phone
Hotline,
guy.
we thought, well, we can put him anywhere. Anywhere. It's animation. Let's put him in a train station, just standing there.
Just standing there.
And I was just going to say, and so to the appearance of Clive.
Clive. We love Clive. Clive is he also has some faint, I won't claim he's directly based on my personal life, but he has some faint basis on my personal life, in as far as I had anything to do with this character whatsoever. The idea of somebody who comes home and lies continuously is based on someone I was going out with at the time. Not my ex-wife, this is somebody else. And she was bald as well. She had a sort of dome Teflon head. This is a rather fantastic fact about Clive, but that enormous head is a mistake. The gentlemen who are animating it, who were very, very clever people indeed, they actually squeezed the head of Clive by mistake in one of their renditions, and they said, hey, that's good. So that tall dome-headed figure was originally an error. It was done by Adam Fox and Alan Smith again, by the way, the same people who did the rebrand at the beginning.
This music, in case you're interested, is Lonely Heads by Goldfrapp.
In fact, there's a lot of Goldfrapp on this, on Monkey Dust, because when Monkey Dust came out, Goldfrapp hadn't. And I heard this album and I thought, wow, this is fantastic. This is just right for Monkey Dust, and no one's ever heard it. Put it on Monkey Dust. Of course, by the time the show actually came out, it was being played at every dinner party in London and would have been far better employed as a subject of satirical attack.
So this sketch basically is an amalgam of lots of things. Harry said, let's base sketches on human misery, and so we came up with the concept of a man lying about having an affair. Then we came up with the idea that all of his excuses should be based on a piece of popular culture. The Eagles was actually the first one we came up with here. The rude lines at the end were then added on by somebody saying, why, rather than affair, shouldn't it be human depravity? And then the animators added the great bit that we like here of always adding a little visual, in this case of the Eagles.
Eagles shaking their heads was fantastic.
So it was a real team effort, this.
And we should also credit Will Smith and Roger Drew, who are two writers not in any way related to the Hollywood Will Smith, who came up with some of the finest end lines for these sketches. Not this one, but some of the others. I can't even remember which ones they came up with, but they are the ones, if anyone's worrying, who have personal lives.
Some of the ones we rejected we'll be telling you about later in the DVD, I think, when we...
Well, we didn't actually... some of them we rejected, we put in the second series. That's how tragic we are. We're back to Bert and George again. This is a beautifully animated sketch, I think. Plutonium Gypsies. Laurie J. Proud animated this. Well done, Laurie. And this is Bert and George again. This is a kind of quirky little sketch. Two guys selling plutonium in the street. When we started doing this series, we thought we'll have lots of running characters like Clive the Liar, like the rebranders who come back every week. But then occasionally, we'd be given something a little bit unusual like this, and we'd say, yeah, let's use this. And Bert and George came up with a number of these, and they actually have a drawer in their house full of sketches like these that they wrote in 1985 for Three's a Kind.
The biggest problem with this sketch, when they sent it to us, was getting the dust off the top where it had collected over the years in the bottom drawer and updating it slightly to include modern references.
I'd like to say that that's our far-sighted vision in seeing the things that previous producers had failed to spot.
Bert and George have the biggest bottom drawer in comedy, don't they?
They do. It actually goes into the flat below. They live together. Only one of them's gay, the other one's heterosexual, but they live together like Morecambe wives. They have pyjamas and sit in a great big bed.
Yeah. But we like that sketch.
But we love that sketch. I particularly like the drawing of the bloke and the woman. They're ghastly.
So we move on
now we come on to
we move on now to my finest hour. If you wonder what my voice sounds like without a filter, it's this sketch, because I insisted on playing the part of the baby because I wanted to swear on. I wanted to say fuck and motherfucker on
I should actually point out that
I wasn't allowed to say. Can you say on this? I wasn't.
No, we'll get to later because.
Well, they'll have to bleep it in the thing.
Yeah, we were banned from saying in the first series, and then they let us say
anyway,
the second series.
They let me do this voice.
Well, they is me. I should point. What actually happened was that Sean Pye begged me. He came to me on bended knee. There were tears in the corner of his eyes. He said, "Please, please let me act. I've always wanted to be a performer. I have more charisma than people give me credit for. Please let me act." And I said, "Okay, Sean. If you want, as a special favour, I'll let you nip into the studio and just do this one voice." Within the day, Sean's agent was on the phone demanding more money for this one voice than the other actors, many of them with 20 years' experience under their belt.
Thank you, Vivian. I love you for it.
Were getting for their entire day's work,
know,
and that is not a joke. That's actually true.
You could feed people in Middlesbrough for the amount of money, for a year, for the amount of money I was asking for this, but I didn't get it. I should point out.
So fucking get it.
So don't hate me. But the main thing about this, my portrayal here, is I decided, as you can probably hear, to play it gay.
But yeah, he does sound rather gay. But I'd like to point out that in as far as there's any reference to my own background in this, there were some people at my school who I'd now like to name check, called the Thwaites family, 3 brothers called Dominic, Thursby, and Jacoby. And I always thought those 3 kids must have grown up. Just every morning they just must have woken up and thought, "What the fuck were you doing? What the fuck were you doing when you named me?"
Anyway, that's the end of that. We'll come back to that in the second one. This is First Time Cottager.
Oh, and Peter Bainham.
Peter Bainham.
Those of you who are not sure who he is, he's the good-looking one out of Saturday Night Armistice.
Indeed.
Who's now bastard attempted to move into animation by writing I'm Not an Animal in a dismal and failed attempt to compete with us. Actually, it's quite good.
Yeah, it's terrible. I've seen it and laughed all the time. But he came up with this idea. Unfortunately, he couldn't carry on working. But thank you for letting us use your name, Peter, because it got us a commission on BBC Three.
He actually only wrote the first half of this sketch. It's rather bizarre. The sketch is this. What you're watching now has been written by him. This scene here in front of the mirror, which is rather good, was written by him. And then at the end of this scene, it takes a sort of quality dip, which is the bit where it's been the writing is taken over by us because he literally had to go off and work on other things.
But it was such a great idea. Essentially, the idea of how, I mean, this isn't really a joke about homosexuality at all, is it?
It's about people who. It's about what? Well, it's a very middle class worrying thing. If you did want to cottage, if you did want to go down to the toilet or
engage in one of those sexual acts that you just never ever would think of doing, how would you do it for the first time? Was essentially the sketch we came up with, and so
he came up with. I mean, we came up with. He came up with.
And wrote Jeff, who is one of the most sympathetic characters, I think.
Yeah, when people say there's no sympathy in this show, look at Jeff. He's a man who wears night vision goggles in the toilet. The fact this is Rastafarian is almost certainly a reference to the Ron Davis story, which was probably current at the time. Was when those who with a good memory for current affairs will remember Ron Davis, Labour MP, gobbling the Rastafarian. Why that should all Rastafarians should be tagged with the gobbleable brush. I'd like to point out in this case, obviously this is a perfectly non-involved Rastafarian. He's a very nice, positive role model for Rastafarians everywhere. If any young children Rastafarians are watching, this is the kind of person. I like that joke there. Pissing on the ceiling.
Hard on Jake.
Hard on Jake. Now we're back with Stuart Murphy, paedophile horror at the BBC. We actually based this character's hands on Stuart Murphy. If you ever want to know what the controller of BBC Three's hands look like, they're gnarled and warty, like that. And Charlie Drake obviously is a figure from my own youth because I am immensely old. When we were asked to justify this sketch, Stuart did actually say, please help me justify this sketch. And we were able to say, once upon a time, this was a warning, although that began to wear thin as it became rather prevalent, this practice. And we did actually at one point try to justify things by saying that this was a version of the coyote. In the same way the divorced dad dies every week because he looks like the coyote, this fella fails to get the Roadrunner every week. It's a sort of coyote Roadrunner thing, just slightly moved on for grown-ups.
Indeed.
That's not very convincing, is it?
Not really. I just wanted to point out that, again, it's another thing where time caught up with us. Justin Timberlake was a very little-known member of NSYNC when we wrote this. We scoured popular culture looking for exactly the right level of recognition, and of course we were quickly overtaken by time there.
But congratulations, I would just like to say, from name-checking Frey Bentos there. on the meat. That's very good. Fray Bentos is a town in Uruguay. I'd just like to get forward. I'd like to sort of jump forward to the point in this 3-hour commentary where we run out of things to say, and I tell you that Fray Bentos is a town in Uruguay named after a Dominican priest.
If you're wondering, listening to this, Harry is that fucking dull all the time.
Yeah.
Now, this was
pride
another one.
myself.
This is interesting because we wrote this before September the 11th. This is one of the first things we wrote.
We wrote the whole series before September the 11th.
It was halfway through. September the 11th happened one Thursday when we were writing.
Near the end,
Dust,
though. I think we've written nearly all of it. Yeah.
But this is obviously based on the idea that Hollywood has 3 essential rules in all films. One is that the British are fundamentally evil. One is that America is fundamentally good, and one that the Irish are fundamentally put upon
And
unlovable by
And
the British.
And I particularly enjoyed Titanic. If you remember, Leonardo DiCaprio would get an Irish jig when, no matter who, I think it was when the Jews were dancing in Titanic, there's an Irish jig playing. So we decided that Anne Frank was a sensitive area to give this treatment to. And this, I should name check the animator here because this is a fantastic piece of work, absolutely fantastic piece of work by Damien Fox, who works at a company, or worked at a company called Slinky. Really, really splendid bit of animation. Well done to him.
But the September the 11th reference is basically, we were very worried after it happened that this wouldn't be the pervading mood in Hollywood, and the sketch would look very old. But fortunately, if you've seen the latest series of 24,
fantastic.
The villains are
Oxford-educated Brits who want to kill everyone in the world with a virus for no reason other than the fact they're English.
Exactly, and are innate evil. So.
Yeah. I mean, 24 did actually, the second series did actually have bad guys who were neo-republicans who wanted to invade a Middle Eastern country under the pretext of weapons of mass destruction in order to get their oil. Then that happened, so congratulations to them for being predictive. And so immediately they reverted to Plan A, which was wicked British people who speak a bit like Leslie Phillips. And here is Hitler speaking like Leslie Phillips. The actor doing Hitler said, "How am I going to do Hitler?" I said, "Do Leslie Phillips." And I think it's very good. And here's Johnny. He's actually quite good looking, isn't he? I mean, if you were a first-time cottager, Johnny's probably the one you'd go for.
Harry's run out of things to say during one sketch.
But it's a very long sketch.
It is long. This is one of the
minutes.
longest. That is an interesting. This is one of the longest sketches, and I think it shows.
You'll notice that
in
Hitler,
comparison to everything else, the only sketch longer than this in the whole thing is the Cinema Hotline, but that just feels longer.
You'll notice that Hitler had a little swastika cut out of the back of his hair, which is a nice visual touch. Based on Mike
those
Tyson.
credits. If you can freeze the credits, we spent days writing those
they're
credits.
very funny. They're not just 6 lines that go round and round again with a few limp jokes about the owner of the company.
No, there's lots of in-jokes there if you want to...
Now, we're back on Cinema Hotline, and you can actually really see the way our visual imaginations have developed.
We've absolutely exploded with imagination here by having him standing...
We've got his arm out.
His arm out, standing in a street.
I mean, to be fair, he does actually stick his finger in his ear, and I think there's a snail in this. However, I think we should confess that those were put in by the animator, who at this point was absolutely desperate, because she'd signed up to an animation show and had been given a script which reads, "Man stands in street for 40 seconds.
Exactly.
And that was Michelle. I'm sorry, Michelle, about that, but you did a very good job with the snail and the ear and all those other things. And we have learned, and I think you'll find in our second and third series, there are people who sit in chairs and do all sorts of exciting things.
All over, not just streets, everywhere now. Offices.
Yeah. It's incredible the variety we get in.
Now, this sketch, we made a mistake.
Well, a little mistake, yeah.
The guy in this sketch is not Jeff, but most people think he is Jeff because he looks far too much like Jeff, and it was rather confusing, I think.
He did actually have the same hair as Jeff to begin with, and in a brilliant piece of innovation, we recoloured his hair in an effort to make him different. And you see him from the back quite a lot.
Yeah, but he still looks a bit like Jeff.
He still does look a bit like Jeff. This was actually animated by the same guy who did Jeff as well, who's a very, very brilliant young man called David White, who we found on the internet. And he was so good that we put him in charge of a whole chunk of the animation. He's got his own team working for him, and he's only in his early 20s. Bastard. He's from Nottingham, so he hasn't got it all his own way.
So in Monkey Dust, Harry came up with the idea that we would have something called nocturnes in every one, which is bits of music covered by seeing people sort of in bed. And I said it was a terrible idea, and he's put it in every one since, and it turned out to be quite good. So
Thank you.
that's the only compliment he's going to get paid by me all this fucking series.
And one of the pitches for Monkey Dust was that we would include, the very best of new independent British music. So this is French. It's Air, and of course, being Monkey Dust, it's now Series 1. It's now about 7 years out of date, but it was so cutting edge at the time, believe me.
So you may have remembered a cinema hotline sketch that we started 4 or 5 years ago that still seems to be rumbling on.
But it's paranoid. It's it's noir in many ways.
See, we've set this one.
Well, with this one, we're really busting up. This is interesting now. He's in bed. He's got glasses. He's changed his clothes. It's finally sinking into our tiny brains that we had to do something. And I actually quite like this one where the cinema hotline rings him back. Yeah.
Who is this?
I'm prepared to defend this one.
I like this sketch mainly because it's just over.
Wow.
And we move on.
Credit to the voiceover actors in that, N. Reitel and Simon Greenall, who really enjoyed doing those cinema hotline things. But we must move on, because here's Ivan, and we love Ivan. Mainly because of the self-same Simon Greenall who does the voice.
Indeed. Let's start at the beginning with Ivan. Ivan came from a very simple idea about someone who's been in prison for 25 years suddenly being released, and because he's innocent, and being so institutionalised.
Well, that's not the simple idea. It's quite a complicated idea. But the idea was that he's so institutionalised that he can only see things in terms of violence. In the end, he can only resort to violence to get himself back to what he regards as home.
We developed that, and he lived in a world that was essentially completely conditioned by the world when he had gone in. So we came up with quite a good philosophical idea that we wanted to put in the sketch, and then somebody said, well, why don't you just put him on a space hopper? And all of a sudden it seemed funny. So So we went with it. But then the next thing that really brought this sketch to life was Simon Greenall's voice, who's doing Ivan there, which is, I find, hilariously funny whenever he does it.
Simon is from Carlisle, and that is a Carlisle accent, believe it or not.
Ivan was originally, he was from the south somewhere.
Yeah, Reading, I don't know.
It was Reading or something,
But Carlisle is perfect. And not only that, that is based on a boy that Simon Greenall used to bully at school, who had a much higher voice than everybody else. And he was bullied, not so much by everyone in the class as by Simon. I won't name the guy because he's probably only just getting over it.
Simon also came up with the phrase Mr. Hoppy as well. That wasn't in the original script.
Is that
Simon did it in one of the...
God, I'd forgotten that. Well done, Simon. He's much funnier than we are.
He is. He should have written more.
Much, much funnier.
That music, by the way, the Ba Ba Da Ba music was discovered by you.
Well, it's called Come by Eddie Warner, and it was on a free album called The Later Lounge. Not that I've ever bought a copy of Later. I'd like to also name check Stuart, our editor. He's the kind of person who buys magazines full of naked women, and I never, ever, ever look at them. But there was a free lounge CD, and it was this perfect bit of music which I put in about 17 times. Here it is again. Well, why not? And I don't think there's a company called Peerless. If there are, they're probably preparing their lawsuit even now. But one thing that we always kept rather ambiguous at the beginning is whether Ivan actually murders, whether he actually did it, whether he actually is a murderer or not. And the more went on with Ivan, the more clear it became he's a complete psychopath.
Yeah.
We actually turned him into one of the most dangerous men on the planet.
But mainly by the conditioning in prison, though. When he went in, he was...
But I mean, there was certainly a satirical suggestion to begin with that this was a poor, innocent, put upon man.
Well, we're running out of time.
We've
run out of time in the sketch, but there is the whole Stephen Downing thing we should address in episode 2.
Yes, there's an incentive to watch the second one.
Us discussing the Stephen Downing case.
We'll tell you all about Stephen Downing and the Bakewell Tart murders and Stefan what's his name. Oh, it's the end. Well, there you go. That's the end of the first one, and you get to see all the best bits without the boring words that we wrote in little boxes, and that tells you who animated what. So actually me saying who animated it was completely irrelevant, really. It just wasted your time, mine, ours, and your money. But it's too late now. Maybe you were given it. Maybe you don't care.
Maybe they were trying to buy I'm Not an Animal and they bought this by mistake.
Well, welcome to the Twats commentary of episode 2 of Monkey Dust. And if my voice sounds slightly different, it's because I have now been given a filter as well. I've actually been given a gay filter.
The literal phrase was, your voice sounds a bit gay. We've given you a gay filter.
So we've got
Are we
a common
meaning this in the
filter and a gay
playground meaning of the word gay?
I'm not actually sure whether that's because I made that rather dubious remark about Johnny in Anne Frank, or whether I just sound gay. I was actually interviewed by a journalist once who said in the piece afterwards that my voice was a breathy version of Julian Clary's voice, which is a bit like being a short version of Jeanette Cranky. You know, there's not really anywhere to go.
Anyway, ladies, calm yourselves down when you hear the new husky Harry.
I will be talking like this for the rest of the programme.
I am actually an incredibly good-looking, heaving mass of testosterone. So
right, this sketch.
Don't worry. This sketch. Well, it's rebranded again.
You may have seen it before.
Yeah, we've seen the beginning again, but we love this bit with the helicopter. It's really beautiful. I should actually explain that when I first got the first take back from these animators, obviously being a complete moron when it came to animation, I didn't actually know what the process was. And the first thing they do is they do a thing called an animatic, which is they take your soundtrack, which you've recorded with the actors, and they stick sort of barely moving rough versions of the drawings to it, in which sort of cardboard cutouts of the characters are moved, a bit sort of Captain Pugwash-like. And I actually thought that was the real thing, and got incredibly worried. But then a lot of people who knew what they were doing came and helped me out. And I have to say that seeing the real thing, especially that bit with the helicopter at the beginning, that 3D bit, is absolutely fantastic. It's incredible.
Indeed. Looks great.
Looks
That's
great.
what they say about it.
Yes,
So
and this sketch, of course, was where our fascination with Sven started. And I should point out that this Sven thing started. I think this God reference is just after England beat Germany 5-1, but the other Sven stuff started much earlier, when he just arrived in the country. And that's one of the problems of animation, is not only was this series delayed a year between delivery and transmission, and not only was there an endless time writing it and commissioning what have you, there's also the actual animation itself takes the best part of a year, so you end up with a lot of jokes about Sven-Göran Eriksson that are many, many years out of date.
Very much so. We'll talk about the delay in a minute. I want to... This guy here is played by Brian Bowles.
Pascal.
But he should have a beard like mine.
Isn't that a good voice?
That voice and line had us cracked up for some reason when we were doing it, and Brian did that, and he also plays the Archbishop here, and we increased his role because it was very well done.
So well done, Brian. Congratulations. But going back to football, going back to Sven, because Sven, if you can remember that far back, if anyone's old enough to remember that far back, Sven's comedy characteristic when he came to Britain, when we wrote this stuff, was that every time you turn on the telly, there he was in the crowd every week. Hard to imagine that as a comedy characteristic now. But
Sven's ubiquity. Nothing else is funny about the man at all now, as he's peeled off from underneath Ulrika Johnson a year later.
With special shoe codes outside the door when he's shagging her. And Nancy, of course, who is a bundle of laughs, really.
Yes.
Nancy's wardrobe. There's all these things we could have said about Sven, but no, this entire series, the central observation about Sven is that he turns up a lot.
He's always in the crowd at football matches.
Congratulations, us. Oh dear. It's Rob Newman again. That's Lord Byron. I like this bit where his head explodes in space. I don't know if that's true at all, but I saw it on Outland with Sean Connery, so we had to have that.
That must be true then.
Must be true. Got to be.
Of course, we've moved on since then.
Now here we're back with Brian Bowles as the Archbishop, and John Motson, who I should say is a slight digression. I did hear the other day that a joke we once wrote about John Motson's son had apparently had appalling consequences for his psychological development. So I'd like to apologise to him as well. Sorry.
Right. Here's the dating thing. We wrote this sketch, although watching the European Championships, every advert is about football, but at the time it was a cutting-edge observation being made. Now
playing for Man U, you notice. And of course our major satirical target in the next sketch here is David Ginola, who I think
we thought to ourselves, let's pick players who'll always be around. No, David Ginola.
Yeah.
We may as well have gone for Liverpool's Rob Jones, maybe, or
who? Yeah, well, there are 3 of these ads, and in fact, David White, the gentleman we found on the internet, did this Cuban one, and he also does. We had to change Heinz to Heinz, isn't that sad? Lawyers. He did this one as well with Carol Vorderman.
Of course, in this instance, we picked a celebrity who would always be associated with insurance and loans, and we actually got it right because she always is. So this one paid off.
And that is Sol Campbell. She's beating in there.
Wearing an Arsenal shirt though.
Yeah, so he must just have moved.
Here we go.
And here it is. It's the Sven is ubiquitous joke. We decided to use a variety of animation styles, a combination of animation and not animation. That just wasn't animation. I'm not quite sure what the thinking was there. These are the sketches where we put Sven into live action. So it's not really animation at all, but I have to confess I was vaguely amused by the very childish act of putting Sven's head on an Indian worshipper. He's actually quite hard to see, but you see him there he is, just at the front. Does that count as animation? I'm not sure. But these people in the street are a linking device that we wrote last of all.
The very last thing we wrote.
Very last thing.
I think it shows.
Don't be unkind. You know they were doing their best. Now
this
our favourites.
This is our favourite sketch, possibly of all 3 series. This is essentially a radio sketch.
Yeah, one of the first things we wrote, absolutely no visuals, and 3 cheers to some brilliant animators called 3 guys called Fizzy-Eye, who just made this.
They've thrown everything creative they've got at it and turned what was a radio sketch into this, which is very good. But this is our favourite sketch because it's based on the obvious premise that in press conferences it's always whoever's crying most who's done it. And my favourite touch in this sketch is the wife who remains motionless throughout all 5 of these sketges.
Apart from cigarette smoke. Yeah.
Cigarette smoke. But we did get into trouble on this.
Yeah, we got into real trouble on this because we got when the first show was completed, during the delay, a lot of executives that we'd never heard of, the head of this and the head of that, got hold of the series and started to say, I think one woman did a report and it said that it had no conceivable merit, the entire series, and singled out this sketch.
Didn't she say just not funny?
Well, this sketch, she said, was particularly unfunny. You know, it was a dreadful thing. So we had some cuts in this, and the most extraordinary cut we were asked to make was that Dr. Harris was a headmaster, and obviously he does look a bit like Shipman, and he's called Dr. Harris, but we thought, well, if we make him a headmaster, then we'll blur that Shipman thing. And they came back, these executives, and said, no, you have to make him a family GP.
Yeah.
A family GP with a grey beard. That won't offend anybody.
Hoping to trace this man, witnessed at the scene of the crime by 5 separate witnesses. And we're also keen to trace the gentleman spotted by Dr. Harris himself, acting suspiciously in the
But we were also, this one, we were asked to tone down the
scene of crime photos.
photos.
Yeah, we were told that the scene of crime photos were no good. And also the bit where he wrings her neck like the neck of a swan, we were told to get rid of that. And also there was a visual of him wringing her neck like the neck of a swan. So all the sort of murderous, anything that even faintly indicated that a murder had been...
But it was quite... A lot of people were disturbed by this. There were various people involved on the programme that raised objections to this.
Yeah, one of the actresses
used
to be in it.
Yes, but we love it. We think it's funny, and we also think that, bizarrely, it makes a point.
It does
about police incompetence in these matters.
Well, just occasionally there's a point. And I think this could be about to be the end of it, in which case we should shut up talking about it. Local nutter. And there we go. Yes, we're on to the... this is another linking device. Another linking device going into the Weatherman, which is an observation by Burton George, and making the point that weathermen always try to be a little bit amusing.
Always try and refer to the last story.
And you want to punch them.
Yeah.
This isn't meant to be Michael Fish, although I did once, in my younger days, direct the weather forecast. That's my comedy pedigree. And let me just say it's not an experience I'd like to repeat. I tried to bring us a sense of auteurship to it, but it was a one-camera job.
Now, this is Burton George again. You maybe when Burton George are getting name-checked a lot, and yet they're not here, and they don't appear on the first credits.
It says written by us.
Harry Thompson and Sean Pye. And there's a very special reason for this, and that's because, essentially, we fixed it.
Yeah. we decided that to get that essential written by credit at the top, you had to have a certain percentage of material in the show.
Now, we should point out this is arbitrary.
Well, we were trying to work out what a good percentage would be. And the way we did it, we got a calculator out and we worked out how much they'd written, and then we added 1.
And we've decided the arbitrary percentage was something like 21.6, which was exactly the cut-off point. Bert and George make it into the credits on one show, but that was an administrative oversight by someone called Ali Cox, who deliberately put a sketch of theirs
just to
in.
mess us around.
To mess us around.
Bastard.
But no, Bert and George, fantastic.
No, they're very good.
But fucked over by us.
Now, there are 2 levels of music in Monkey Dust. I just thought I'd mention that in case you haven't spotted it. You'll notice he walks past a party there with Billy Piper, because we want to, and whereas it's the old favourite Lovely Head by Goldfrapp over the top. And the cunning thinking here was that there'd be a layer of music on the soundtrack, which would be nice but rather lugubrious and sort of rather washy. And then whenever anyone was playing a piece of music in the actual world of Monkey Dust, if there was a party or a radio on a counter or something like that, it'd always be something really, really foul. And you'll notice later on there's everything from Billy Piper to Five to Ali G and Shaggy.
I stopped off on the way for a swift.
So, well, that's the music explained. Now, this is actually the very last one we wrote in the series, I think. But for some reason, it popped up at number 2. And we actually wrote this before all the Lord of the Rings.
It was. The visual you're about to see is bizarrely prescient, because that was the film poster in the end. But I think that was done before.
Yeah, it was
the film
done just
came
before the very first one. That's how old this is.
Yes. So again, Monkey Dust comes true.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. We'll be claiming a lot of credit for that throughout the course of this interminable commentary.
Come sponge in a Soho fetish.
Come sponge in a Soho fetish club.
Thank you, Will and Roger.
That was Will and Roger, I think. They've obviously been to one.
The way their mind works. This is another brilliant link. Look, Tolkien.
You see that book on the shelf?
And we come to the middle-class dinner party yuppies,
which were written by Bert and George, who mysteriously don't appear on the credits except in the additional material section.
Because we're Machiavellian geniuses. These sketches, I personally don't think lend themselves particularly well to cartoon. They're sitting around the table, but that's a simmering undercurrent that runs through all of Monkey Dust.
I think they're very good and brilliantly animated by Michelle. Well done. Sorry, not Michelle. It wasn't Michelle at all. It was Suzanne Deakin. But anyway, same company. Suzanne Deakin did these based on ghastly people that she goes to dinner with, and I think we've all been to dinner with these people at some point in our lives. Again, a name check for the music here. We thought it'd be a good idea if all these ghastly dinner parties had Babylon by David Gray playing.
That was universal choice. We actually went around the office saying, if you went to one of these awful dinner parties, what would be playing? And of about 8 people asked, 6 went, well, Babylon by David Gray, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's another thing which isn't dated, because I've been to these things, and Babylon by David Gray is still in the background.
And Sean and I were in a car driving to work at one point, and she said, do you want to listen to XFM and something you've never heard, or do you want to listen to Virgin and listen to Babylon by David Gray? And he said, Babylon on Virgin, please. So we turned on Virgin, and Babylon by David Gray was actually in the middle. I should say that was a fake Babylon. David Gray wouldn't let us use it in that sketch. So don't worry, you'll have plenty chances to listen to the fake Babylon during the course of this tape.
Many would say a superior version.
Many would say a superior version. But enough of fake Babylon, because we're back with Stuart Murphy's Hands. And Eminem, who was also a very little-known cutting-edge character at the time that we wrote this. But hey, what the hell. Another rain check for a product there. I wonder if Suzanne Deakin's actually on some sort of money for these.
I don't think that was in the script.
No, it wasn't in the script. And there's a lot of canned produce. It's a product placement is creeping into these sketches. Obviously, normally it's McDonald's or Omega, but in our sketches it's Fray Bentos and tins of pilchards.
The other thing we realised too late in that sketch is you need a big telly to read it, which
that happens a lot.
Which is a drawback. But
right,
anyway.
Now we're back to my personal life.
Now this is back to Harry's life. Watch this, and it's all about Harry's inner soul. It's like we're having a little window into Harry's soul.
I just want to point out.
Children.
I just want to point out that.
Him.
I just want to point out that when Sean said all that stuff about this being based on my personal life in the first sketch, I played along because I'm a good-natured sort of chap. That was all rubbish. However, I have to confess that this one actually is entirely. Genuinely based on my personal life.
This is building up to a punchline.
Because when I got divorced, my kids came to stay with me and my then girlfriend, who was actually a very good friend of Sean's. This is how I met Sean. This lady very kindly made some breakfast for my children. and my daughter pushed it away in a very nice way and said, I can't eat this. And I said, why not? And she said, Mummy said I can't eat this. And why not? And she turned to my girlfriend and said, because you're an ugly, flat-chested cow.
Now, this is hilarious, because the friend in question, Victoria Curran, give her a name check, has quite the most massive pair of knockers in the world.
And my ex-wife hadn't actually met her at the time. And she did burst out. To be fair on Vicky, she didn't cry and run away. She actually burst out laughing. We all did. And I did say to my daughter, who was only 4 at the time, I think Mummy was making a joke. Do you see Vicky eating grass? No. Well, then she's not a cow, is she? Oh, no, it was a joke. So credit to Vicky. She didn't run down the street. But obviously I did go and kill myself in cartoon fashion. He hangs himself that time. We got in a bit of trouble.
And she dumped you a few years later, didn't she?
They all do.
Yeah, because you're an utter reptilian human being that feeds off human emotion. Anyway, we're going to be coming back to more of this. Oh, and we've killed him again. How did we kill him this time?
He hanged himself.
He hangs himself for the Action Man pants.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife Sarah hates that last bit with a vengeance.
But then she's a woman who made the incredible lifestyle choice of marrying Sean. So
indeed.
I
Anyway,
really
talking about me and my brilliance, I'm back in this sketch as the sweary baby.
Yeah, I've got a gay filter on my mic. Just listen to the gayest voice in British broadcasting.
I'd like to
Oh, it's coming up. Wait for it. How gay is this voice going to be?
I'll be shortening it to when I'm older. Steve.
You see? Breathy and Julian Clary.
You always hear your voice back on tape and you always think it sounds really weird, but my nightmare came true when everyone else said it was weird as well.
That'd be fucking magic.
But I got to swear, so...
Yeah.
And I got paid nothing.
And when I was a small baby, I did actually used to get put with three cousins. They weren't from Scotland, they were from Wakefield in Yorkshire. I was about 1 and they were ranging from about 1.5 to 2.5, and they literally did just beat the shit out of me every time, and nobody ever did a thing. And here I am, not at all bothered by it, 70 years later. My ex-wife is Scottish, these are all her friends.
Pure bitterness.
It's all the whole thing. It's catharsis.
Who does this Scots voice?
The Scots voice. Oh, it's Simon Greenall. Yeah. No, that's the Scottish baby. Is Simon Greenall, absolutely.
The Scottish baby is Simon Greenall, but it's funny because he did about 10 minutes of this. This was originally one word, I'm going to have you or something, but he did about 10 minutes. It was so funny. He really lost it and got very angry with a baby.
Now we're coming to one of our favourite characters.
Now this
voiceover man.
This is purely based on someone we know who plays
Peter Dixon.
Peter Dixon.
He actually plays the character. We got him to play the voice. So the man who does the voice is actually the character. He's the man who you'll know him because if you ever used to watch BBC One in the old days before they invented the disabled wheelchair credits, they always used to have a voice saying entertainment on BBC One, and that was Peter. That was his job, and then he lost it. And we just he does. Of course, he doesn't speak like this in real life, but we like the idea that this was his normal voice and this was the best acting he could do.
Indeed.
And he'd be out trying to get some other job, but the only thing he could do in life.
It's bizarre. It's not the cruelest or most cutting-edge sketch we wrote, but it's one of my favourites.
Yeah.
Just because Peter Dixon's voice is so...
And we should point out that Peter is married to a very, very nice lady called Barbara Dixon, bizarrely. Not the singer, but somebody who had one of those unfortunate moments when, fate dealt them a name that someone a bit useless already had. But they get on very well, and he doesn't bitch slap her across the room. But we did like the idea of him actually getting angry. In fact, all these sketches are about him losing his temper or having an excess of emotion in the voiceover mode. He really enjoyed it, by the way, I should add, although he too was a bit shocked by the... he came to the screening and was a bit horrified by the bloke who obviously did it, the Dr. Harris sketches. Anyway, we'll be back to him because here we are.
Here's Sven. You
What a
remember
surprise! Now this Sven
chuckling along at Sven's
chuckling
ubiquity.
on Sven's ubiquity. Here we go. Now in this particular Sven, you'll see that Sven himself makes an appearance on a motorbike, and Sven had been in the country about 3 weeks when we did this, so we had to hire a lookalike, but there weren't any Sven lookalikes.
He doesn't look anything like
So it's just a bald man,
Bloke on a motorbike.
and we made him go a very very long way away, just so that we could. Now here's an interesting thing. Now you see this. Chucks that bolt at the light. That's called a Foley effect. That's a sound effect done live, and well, I'll tell you about that in a minute actually, because this is really interesting. This bit of music, the words, every line on this music fits the pictures. You see honesty for the liar, and then the next bit you've got Dr. Harris in the window under every stone. Just coming out. Under every stone there he's been digging. Every line fits the animation. It's incredible. That was a complete accident, a total coincidence. I wish I could claim some credit. It even fitted. It was just astonishing. Absolutely astonishing coincidence.
So back to Jeff.
We're back to Jeff, and I'm sorry that you can't read what it says on the box. It actually says positive thinking for the first time cottager.
That was a reading gag we put in that doesn't really pay off.
Yeah, it wouldn't pay off if it was about 9,000 miles away. Anyway, going back to the Foley artist, the Foley artist is the guy who does the live sound effects. And this was a man who was about 89, and he'd done all the famous Ealing comedies and great films. And he came along and he had this enormous bag full of sort of teacups and boxes of gravel, and he'd been doing this for years and years, and he did all those little sound effects. So every time you hear a sound effect that's not off a disc, like a car passing, it's this little old man whose life has come down to a point that he's working for us. Can we just disown that?
Plead not guilty to the cottagers joke there. That was the animators. The animators are geniuses, and we can't thank them enough. They're really good, but never write your own written material.
Fulham jokes. Thank you. Sorry about that. Now we like this bit. We like the hyphen joke. It's coming up in a minute. This is Jeff.
This is the educated bastard element in us coming out.
Yeah. It's not about being gay.
Jokes.
It's not about being gay, this sketch. It's about middle class embarrassment. How would a middle class man write an invitation to cottage? And obviously, what would really exercise him is getting the grammar right.
Exactly, getting a hyphen.
And is there a hyphen in Quarter Pounder? I don't
think we even bothered checking at the end.
No.
And I'm sure it's
probably
wrong.
not, but here it goes. Hyphen joke. Apologies for name-checking our own joke, but we did like that joke. There you go. Yeah, and off again. Now, there's quite an embarrassing bit of my life followed because we wrote this bit where the weights and measures people turn up with a euro weighing measure to measure his knob to find out whether it is in fact a quarter pounder, and we had to find out the French words to put on it. So I actually had to ring up the BBC World Service sort of French division saying, "Excuse me, I'm ringing up from BBC Three, but could you possibly tell me the French for penis weighing machine?" Which it's not really a moment in my life I'd like to revisit.
Hey, but to be fair to them, they could.
They could do it. It was balance à peser le penny, I think. But there you are. You see, it's an educative programme. There you go. Is it balance à peser le penny? See, it's plural. Isn't that astonishing? You wouldn't have thought that. In French, it's not one cock, it's loads of them.
Hyphen jokes and French syntax.
Exactly. Do not say that this is not an educative programme.
We are filling BBC Three's educative remit, I think.
I think we certainly are. Yeah.
Is it, sir? Okay, then, quick picture for the local paper.
And this is just cruelty, really. I mean, there's absolutely no reason to put his weeping white-haired mother. It's just vicious, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
we like Jeff so much, and yet we decided he had to be humiliated at the end, which is...
And punished at every turn.
Slightly mean, but...
Yeah, Time Out called this homophobic. It's not. We love him.
It's not homophobic. Jeff is the most sympathetic character in Monkey Dust.
And that says reality for the first-time cottager, for those of you who don't have microscopes. Or telescopes.
It's anti-middle class, I think, rather than...
Yeah.
Or at least I like to think.
Yeah. Now we're back to voiceover man. Little credit for Kate Robbins, who's doing the slut speak voiceover rather mysteriously well, I think. In fact, I think she might have said that she'd done something like this, a bit of work like this. I can't remember.
This is real voice as well. We phoned a slut speak line from Harry's office at Talkback. I was rather hoping he'd get into trouble for it, but But apparently not.
I wrote down what they really said. So in
but
fact, we
this
probably
is a-
owe somebody some copyright money.
Somebody's getting some royalties. Tina from Bradford or some
Yeah.
58-year-old woman is getting.
And Kate Robbins, who did that voice, is Paul McCartney's cousin. Little trivia fact for you there. And it's Peter.
Fiona, and I'm getting wet.
We like
Are
this.
you hard yet?
Is this the right number?
Go on.
Yes, I'm a hot and horny slut, stripped and ready for action.
Ah, you see, I bet he actually does that work now.
But I would pay. Just
I
I'd pay a premium rate.
I
for
bet.
that.
Oh, now this link.
This is the most
dreadful.
ludicrous link in the world.
Ludicrous link. We were trying to link the last.
How do you
sketch.
get from voiceover man doing slut speak to Ivan Dobsky, and for some unknown reason we came up with this?
We decided
This is
that
terrible.
we decided that the red phone was somehow the key. Oh dear, trying to link all these sketches is an easy task sometimes.
Indeed,
but,
there are worse ones coming up in 4 and 5. But here we are.
We're back with Ivan and this
Lovely
was-
line there from Simon.
Oh yes, yes. Will me mummy be here for to meet us? Which is Simon Greenwell telling us how it would have been said.
Indeed,
in
the
Carlisle.
original script I imagine said, "Will my mother be here to collect me?" or something.
Yeah, will my mother be present
Indeed, so
at a future juncture? Because
Simon-
we're not known for our ability to write naturalistic dialogue for anyone who isn't a white, middle-class, educated male.
yes, exactly.
It's a bit embarrassing. We have to get the actors to tell us what real people would say.
Exactly. Anybody young, old, any sort of ethnic minority, any
Yeah.
sort of
Especially they're young.
exactly.
We
Believe
write
me.
jeepers and things like that.
Crikes.
Lumsy. I don't think anyone's ever said crikes or lumsy, not unless they were mentally ill. But you might notice a slight similarity between this Ivan Dobsky sketch and the previous Ivan Dobsky sketch.
And there is a reason for that, and it's because they're exactly the same.
No, well, they're exactly the same.
We called it a template, and we decided to do it twice because we're lazy.
Yeah,
And also we wanted to establish the character as well.
We did rationalise it to ourselves. We persuaded ourselves that what would happen is that some people would watch the first show and they'd tell all their friends how
The
good it
millions of
was.
people and the
And
critical
then
acclaim would then make everyone watch the
They'd
second
all flood
show.
to the second show, and they wouldn't have seen the first show, so they wouldn't have known what was going on with Ivan. So if we just ran it almost exactly the same sketch again,
Yeah.
then they'd understand what was going on. Actually,
It
what
worked to
happened-
perfection, apart from the
people watching.
Yeah.
I think 11 people watched the first show, and then they went and told their friends, and 9 people watched the second show. I think that was roughly how it worked. But if you were one of those 9, then just, you were there. You were there at the forefront of a cult. Well done.
The other problem, which will become readily apparent throughout the series, is that we started running out of 1970s references.
Yeah, well, I think the first show has a lot of 70s things that we all knew about. The second one, I'm actually ransacking my early childhood and trying to remember things that were in my house. The animator put a lot of things on the back. None of and moose bumps. The animator's about 12. Steve, you just those are completely unconvincing. What's a moose bump?
That bit, by the way, was an example of us not being able to write for young people. That was young shop owner going, "It's slow, innit?" Which is Harry's idea of how young people spoke
It's
back in
actually
the
a-
1950s.
It's actually a line from Only Fools and Horses.
I've got to sell them by the kilogram. It's slow. It's terrible line.
Yeah, which Sean didn't in any way
I did
attempt
object to at the
change.
time.
Nonsense.
Anyway,
Absolute nonsense.
rubbish.
Yeah, you see, I am actually old, whereas Sean is only quite old, but in his heart, he's even older than I am.
So there, we've killed someone else.
Sean
We should
still
have kept
listens
a,
to the Beatles.
we should have kept a death counter this series.
We should, shouldn't we?
We'll
And
halfway through that-
we're very keen on the idea that at prisons there's only one warder who answers the door when you knock on the gate. He comes out in his pyjamas later.
But Ivan is the classic example of what we talked about earlier about cartoons. You can just reset reality because at the beginning of every one, he's simply the meat safe murderer again,
And
and
he's
then
simply released again.
he
Yeah.
murders. We move it on slightly in series 2 and
Yeah, he just starts murdering people then.
series 3 even more. But we simply suspend and then go back to the beginning, as you'll see. It's also
great,
very
isn't it?
handy. 'cause
Very handy,
You
yeah.
never have to write any developing character. You simply start with the same idea over and over again, not letting you know too much of the magic.
Oh, well, welcome back. It's show 3, and I thought maybe just quickly tell you about this piece of theme music. It's called That's Not Really Funny, Hostage to Fortune, by a group called the Eels, and as soon as we heard it, we thought, oh, that's a great bit of music. But under the bizarre rules that the BBC operates, the BBC can use any bit of music they like in the whole world, unless it's a theme tune, in which case you have to get the personal permission of the bloke who wrote it. And the bloke who wrote it is a gentleman called Mark Everett, who's the lead singer of the Eels, who calls himself E. And he was on a national tour of America and Canada at the time. And it took 9 months to track him down, because every time we sent a message to Bonefuck, Wyoming, he'd moved on to the next state. And then by the time we finally got hold of him, he was really, 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 he wanted to see what we'd done, and we ended up sending him sketches and finally gave his permission so late that if he'd said no, we'd have been absolutely screwed. So I suppose that's a cautious thank you.
Same theme music that was used by a program called The Entertainers.
Yeah, The Entertainers used it without permission, and I actually snitched on them. I rang up the record company and told them, so they had to pull it.
Yeah.
I was so cross.
That's why he's the most hated man in television.
It's true. Except in this room where I'm loved. But this is another rebranders. This is I co-wrote with a gentleman called Marcus Berkman, who was employed entirely because he was my best friend when he was 10. Obviously, I've hated him ever since, but at the time we were good friends, and I thought I owed him something. And this is about rebranding the name Cancer, and this is one of the sketches that had the most complaints. I should state at this juncture that my mum died of cancer, which is a very good and cynical defence to use against anyone who complains.
Harry has a whole range of friends and families cultivated over the years with all manner of...
If you work in comedy, it's always very handy to develop a range of diseases in your family. My grandfather died of Alzheimer's disease, which has obviously come in very handy.
In Series 2 we had
a very good comedy disease, so... It's a little tip to any school children out there wanting to work in comedy is get some ill relatives.
Cover your bases with all sorts of sexualities.
Yeah, preferably get yourself damaged in an accident.
Just all manner of human life. Have somebody with some aspect of it working on the show, and you've got a defence against most sketches. Okay. But this one was pretty near the wire, I have to admit.
Yeah, but it's a fair point, is it not?
It is a fair point, and it was the essential joke we were trying to make is that hospitals spend far too much money on bureaucracy rather than treatment.
Indeed, and I should point out, vis-a-vis one of the earlier rebranders, the fire one, that after we wrote it, the government did announce that they were thinking of rebranding the fire brigade and renaming it. I don't think they did in the end, but it was actually one of Blair's plans, was to call the fire brigade something, probably not Icarus. But I rather liked this cartoon. I thought it was great with the little closure screensaver. And you'll notice a clever little link here. Clever little link. You see? There's a woman at the top of this sketch with a closure T-shirt.
This is a very simple sketch. This was based on a conversation I had with my wife, who was essentially this happened. She was asking me what she'd like to buy when we went shopping and what she'd like to look like.
She has to actually ask Sean what she'd like.
I told her that I'd like it if she dressed in a short skirt like a whore, and it didn't go down very well. But we turned it into a sketch because we were running out of ideas.
I know Sean's wife. She always now wears jeans and long sleeve tops. It was kind of a negative effect, really.
Probably. But anyway, thank you. There's a name check, Sarah there.
Anyway, yes, moving on.
The next sketch is written by Will Smith and Roger Drew
and there you'll see again, you'll see the lady from clubbing. We were really pulling out all the stops. The lady from the shop is in the clubbing queue, so we're really pulling out the stops to link everything. Roger and Will wrote this, and they actually wrote about 200 paragraphs of this fantastic
reams
rubbish
and reams of people talking shit, which I can only assume came from their own lives.
It was very good.
Will and Roger are two very, very, very sad people who are obsessed by...
They're actually obsessed by Tolkien. Can you imagine that? Sean.
Tolkien in sci-fi and Buck Rogers, but they have strange minds that came up with all of this bollocks.
And we just randomly chose our favourite paragraphs
and we whittled it down. Yeah. But I could have read those paragraphs forever, but I have to admit they didn't make particularly good cartoons. They were fantastic.
But they're fantastic.
But that illustrates the... Harry had this strange... I'll just talk over Liar here. Harry had this strange idea that he wanted to link all the sketches in Monkey Dust so they ran smoothly from one end to the other like we were... The original idea was that it was like a camera moving around the nocturnal city, and we would just drift in and out of people's lives, which was a fantastic idea. It was a creative genius and also utterly impossible to do when you actually got down to it, which is why we ended up with these terrible links like the ones Harry's just been going through there. And the homeless couple, that was an attempt to try and link in some way.
So the way it works is we sit down and we write all the sketches, and when we've got about 200 or however many sketches as you need for a series, we put them all on a card, and then we put them all on a giant board, and then we literally spend weeks, and I'm not joking, weeks, looking at this giant board full of index
And you start
cards,
off thinking, I'd like one sketch to move into the other, and I'd like the mood to match, and we'd like, pacey sketch followed by slow sketch.
But instantly you see joins. Instantly you say, God, that goes straight into that.
It's brilliant.
And that goes straight into that. And then that takes the first 2 minutes. And you've done 3.
And you end up thinking, we want each show to be balanced. We want there to be not too much gratuity in it. By the end, you're just going, look, these two people have got fair hair.
You've got 197 index cards. You say, has anyone got the same colour shoes?
Well, why don't we call this guy Jack and then have a picture of a Jack in the next one? It's so rubbish. Spot the joins. That's a little game you can play.
Little game you can play.
Live was always terrible to link out of because it always ends with Clive saying that he's about to fist a gibbon or something. I don't know what he's doing there.
I've been the anal gimp of a German.
Oh,
anal gimp of a German businessman. Where do you go from that? Humpty Dumpty, look, he's holding it's a small child with a Humpty Dumpty under his arm, and we've just had Humpty Dumpty.
This is one of the better links because this is a tragic line about it not being his fault, and then it going into the whole Curtis Land thing with the balloon. This is one of the ones. This is probably the first link we would have written for this show.
Yeah, because occasionally we did actually, give up trying to join up people with fair hair and actually write links specially.
Yeah, and we thought the balloon floating, and this piece of music's very nice as well. I can't remember.
Yeah, well, it's Goldfrapp again, I'm afraid, and not a huge piece of imagination.
And so this drifting across the picture of the happy balloon face, drifting across the city with the mawkish music and the barbed wire of Curtis Land there is good, but some of the others not so good. But this is Curtis Land anyway. This was an idea that we came up with at a meeting with Rob Newman. Rob Newman was partly responsible for this, and the joke is obviously that all Richard Curtis's films are set in a strange suburb of London, where everyone's posh and nice, certainly nothing like the Notting Hill that we all know. So that was what the sketch was about.
Oh my gosh, total disaster. God, dinner party tonight, completely run out of aubergines.
You must be English.
Oh, gosh, yes, how perceptive of you.
God, what a wonderful market.
Oh, gosh, thanks. Just normal, really. Bit of fruit, veg, antiques. Old Reg here's had his
and in fact this was one of the sketches that got most heavily censored because we got quite vicious about what wasn't in Curtis Land, and we got quite vicious about the attitudes that people might have in Curtis Land, and we ended up with this character saying that using the N-word.
I'd love to.
Very much in the context of this is not a word you would want to hear someone use, but of course censorship doesn't work that way. They don't look at the context, they merely hear the magic N-word. And
we've just said, the escalation in the sketch is that we are about to have a whole family of Nigerians who've lived in the house before buried in the back garden. So it was an escalation, and we were expecting not to be able to use that word.
Well, it got passed by the junior executives whose job it was to pass it, but unfortunately the higher up the tree it went, the more nerves kicked in. And also there was a bit of fear that this chap might look a little bit like Hugh Grant.
I don't know where they got that
idea from, but of course it would be the part played by Hugh Grant, not Huey himself.
Why ever not?
Well, it's where they keep the immigrants and poor people.
That sounds terrible. Isn't there something we can do?
Oh, yes, there is. Once every 2 years, we have a special...
And then there's another vicious attack on poor old Richard Curtis's charity activities. It's slightly influenced by the fact that I once worked on Children in Need and had to sit around while lots of celebrities pretended to be doing something for free, and when in fact they were all getting £20,000 on the sly. But I'm sure that doesn't happen now. I certainly did then.
Or with Comic Relief, which is what Richard Curtis actually makes.
Which is what he makes in Not Children in Need. Well, that was Celebrities in Need.
Anyway, this is the second Lucky Girl we did. And you see what we've done there? There's Bridget Jones' Diary. That's absolutely faultless link there.
But in all other respects, it's the same sketch.
It's the same sketch. Essentially, me and my wife asking,
a video shop.
What should we get out in the video shop? And essentially... hardcore porn, and there's nothing.
By now, anyone who's stuck with us this far will be beginning to feel very, very sorry for Mrs. Pye. She lives in a world where there are repeated daily attempts to force her into hardcore porn.
Making it up now, and she's going to see you. This is just a quickie.
It's just a quickie. It's a rather gratuitous little quickie. See, he's got a Closure T-shirt. We went a bit mad on the links on this one.
Indeed, and a chance to see
the only male member in the series.
There we
Except
go.
for Tony Blair. Ha ha, satire. You see? See what I was doing there?
That's enough of that. And here we are, back to the homeless couple.
Yeah.
The conceit here being that there are people that live on the street, but they are in fact middle class and have middle class attitudes.
Which is quite a common,
Hilarious.
quite a common conceit.
Anyway.
Oh, good.
Bloke
Oh,
Who.
we're back to the bloke who. The bloke who obviously did it. Yeah. No, we really like it. This is perhaps the ultimate sketch when it comes to giving the animators nothing to work with, and
Nothing
just
at all.
Brilliantly.
Tips like that, they put that in. That's
brilliantly turning it around. It's Kent Berkman, Dr. Kent Berkman, the academic, who comes in. Obviously, the name Berkman is taken from Marcus Berkman, who wrote the Rebranders at the beginning, and Kent is just one of those bizarre American first names. But he comes on with the most fantastic slideshow, which we can claim zero credit for.
Yes.
Entirely done by the boys from Physii. And some of the nonsense that Kent Berkman, who I promise will be along in a minute, comes up with. Oh, that was the bit. That was one of the bits that got banned. Hands on the neck. That was one of the bits that got banned by management. In fact, all of this bit was in trouble. But when Kent Berkman comes along in a minute with his slideshow, one of the words he uses, victimology, I actually saw on Sky News the other day. Someone was talking about the Holocaust and said that there was a 96% victimology in Latvia, which I thought was a fantastic bit of jargon to describe human misery. We love Kent Berkman.
But this, on the page, believe me, was pretty dry script, but the animators did weave their spell.
It's a brilliant bit of animation. I mean, just the way the thing slides on and off and the shadows on him, it's just the defocused shadows on his t-shirt. I mean, it's absolutely
It's also
high class.
It's their Jack Gag best dad ever, isn't it? Wearing the t-shirt.
Yeah. They thought
we just had him that he changed his clothes.
We just had him strip off to his vest.
Yeah,
but they put best dad ever. With those teeth. Those fantastic teeth. And some of that jargon is absolutely real. We love them. They've just been taken away from us by Steven Spielberg. Bastard. Steven Spielberg has actually just paid them a lot of money to work for him instead of us.
To do one title sequence.
I mean, why?
3 hours
Why would you work for Steven Spielberg?
Cutting-edge cult satire or the chance to earn billions working for the world's greatest ever director.
It's inexplicable.
Shocking. Some people will do anything for money, as I think we're proving today.
Men with eyes that seem to look right through you. Right,
here we go.
We're about to bring you a tragic bit of in-joke. It really is sad. That man there is Kevin Day.
Kevin Day, the comedian, you may have remembered him from the 80s.
Yeah, he was big in the 80s. He hasn't really appeared on TV since then.
Kevin worked with both of us, a very good friend of ours, and he worked with both of us on various programmes.
He was described memorably in a review in The Sun by Gary Bushell as a potato-headed irrelevance. So potato-headed 80s comedian Kevin Day has become something of an obsession with us, and
we had to get him in. The other great thing is we needed to get a picture of Kevin for the animators to draw, because obviously they couldn't remember back to the 80s.
Well, they weren't born.
No, so we asked his agent if she could send us a picture, and her reply was, "I'm sorry, but the picture is out at the minute." They only had one. Out somewhere. So this is getting far too in, but
it was. Yeah, so.
But Kevin took it, hopefully, all in very good grace.
And the reason we called him Kenneth Day is that's his nickname, because of the joke among fellow writers is that his own agent had also forgotten his name and called him Kenneth Day instead of Kevin Day. So that's a. Well, I don't know. We found it funny. Obviously, the rest of the nation or the 11 people who watched the show probably didn't.
You're staring blankly.
Yeah, but there we go. Well, this was our favourite chat room pervert, actually, the one with the maps. We think we really gave the animators a bum steer. We gave them a computer screen, animated computer screen, but we rather like this one with the A to Z.
Although this is the hardest core one, because this is the most explicit, as in entrapment one, which caused us some problems.
Yeah. Anyway, we're back with the clubbers. If you just listen to these paragraphs, they were all written in isolation. They were part of bigger conversations, and as I said, we just took them out and put ones that vaguely fitted together. It's sort of greatest hits of Roger and Will's.
Anyway, back to Harry's sad life.
Back to my sad life.
if Harry's children are listening to this, then maybe you'd like a little word for them. You
Well,
last
my
saw them in
daughter is actually. My daughter's desperate to see
1992.
this. Actually, she's desperate. She knows I work in cartoons, and she's desperate to see it. But she's only
He's something
just
in
turned
cartoons.
10.
I think his name's Henry something, she says
Yeah.
to all of her friends.
She's just turned 10, and she wants to see this. And so she actually, I'm just trying to work out what age I can legally show her something about paedophilia and entrapment.
Well, the funny thing is, somebody who's working on series 3 with us, his nieces love the show.
Yes.
And they love if you've seen series 2, the Paedofinder General, and recently went to a fancy dress party.
Age 10 and 11.
Age 10 and 11 dressed as the Paedofinder General, to which the person having the party said, "Oh, have you come as a witch?" And they went, "No, I've come as the Paedofinder General."
And by the powers invested in me by tabloid hysteria, I pronounce you guilty of paedophilia.
If you haven't seen series 2, there's a little
dear.
treat to look forward to.
10 and 11-year-olds doing paedophilia gags.
Anyway,
I think all those complainers were right. Anyway, this is all real, the Scooby-Doo stuff. It's just it's my son's was obsessed with Scooby-Doo, and it's fantastic trying to have any sort of conversation with him. Not one of these conversations, but it is funny to try and talk to someone who will only speak about Scooby-Doo.
We should also mention that Timmy's voice is done by Morwenna and
Mrs. David Baddiel.
Miss David Baddiel.
As I said, that is part of their sex life we don't really want to go into.
No, but very good voice.
Yes, a very good voice. In fact, she specialises in high-voiced children to the extent that she, if anyone remembers far enough back, she used to be in Absolutely, and she actually used to dress up on a bed rather. She'd be in a little frock sitting on a bed, and they did it with a giant bed, which made her look small. And that's exactly what we've done with Timmy. We just made a tiny boy on a giant sofa in an attempt to make him look small. The animator of this, who I should name, actually won an award for this. It's Steve Smith. He's terrific, and he won Best Young Animator of the Year for this and other cartoons from Broadcast magazine, which is a fantastically dull trade
One of
magazine.
many awards that
in fact, they gave us an award, and they're a very interesting trade magazine that gave us
Broadcast, a very interesting trade magazine. We should
fabulous
also
trade magazine.
name check. We won the British Animation Writers Award under utter sufferance.
I don't think we won the Writers' Award. We didn't get that.
No,
that
we
was
won
won by
Comedy
something
Award.
with no script.
With no script.
The Writers' Award was won by an animal thing, which had lots of moos and grunts, and it turned out it had no script. It was entirely ad-lib.
We also won the Banff Television Festival Student Award, which was basically judged by 6 stoned students in the Rockies in Canada. And on the basis of that, they put Monkey Dust 1 on BBC 2, didn't they?
Yeah.
So
in the middle of the night.
BBC controllers were influenced by the opinion of 6 stoned students in Canada.
Now, this is quite interesting in that it was the very first sketch finished on Monkey Dust. It was the very first, the first piece of paper that ever went in. So script 1, it wasn't the first one we wrote, but it was the first one that was written at all by Bert and George. And we liked it so much we commissioned loads more of these ghastly dinner parties with the fake David Gray burbling on in the background. And what actually happened was that they could never remember either the names of the characters or what their relationship was. And then when we sent it off to the animators, they could never remember which voice went with which character. So later on, sort of series 2 and 3, it's all standardised. But here at the beginning, if you listen carefully, you'll find out that the voices don't fit the same characters they did last time. The relationships change. It's all completely chaotic. Who's with who? I don't suppose it really matters.
No.
But
everyone glosses over in these sketches anyway, because they're not really fit for cartoon more.
This was the original. On the fake music front, not only has this got a fake Babylon, because David Gray didn't want us playing his music at a ghastly dinner party, it's also fake Doors, because they asked Jim Morrison whether he wanted us to play a Doors track and didn't get a reply. So this isn't the real Doors either, but it's a very good copy. Steve Isles did the copy of both of them. Well done, Steve. That's very good, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we like this sketch because of the gratuitous death at the end there.
Yeah, this is the one they played to the press when Monkey Dust was launched.
Yeah.
Which rather explained the...
Look at this for a link. Look at this for a link.
Oh.
Look at that.
Oh, that's class.
Pure genius. Pure genius. We would tell you that must have been written early in the morning before we got bored.
Back to Will and Roger's fabulous jargon. Slam dunk funketeers and ragamuff divers.
In many ways, the Velvet Underground.
And Laurie Proud did the animation, and beautifully observed, I think, all the earrings.
Can I just say why we like this sketch immediately? Because when it first came in, these paragraphs came in, one of the characters was just listed as Scott's twat. Which made us laugh because I think all of us know a Scots twat, don't we?
Yeah, especially if you live in Scotland.
Yes.
Where they probably know some English twats as well. Yeah, Roger and Will did actually stipulate some of the clothing. They did actually stipulate the cricket hat and the puffy jacket. Now here's this is one of the very earliest sketches we came up with, way back when we were thinking of ideas, way back when we were thinking that Sven was ubiquitous.
Indeed.
And it's based on all those poor suckers on national service in the 50s who
told they were going to get the cure for the common cold tested on them and were basically pumped full of
sarin.
Xanthrax B.
Well, there was that guy that was in the newspaper a month or two ago, who died when they gave him sarin. You know, I mean, that's a fucking nerve gas.
So there's no real comedic twist in this. It's simply a incredibly jolly,
nice
private being killed by these two faceless monsters. Now, this sketch contains an ad-lib by Simon Greenall, which has been described as the best and worst thing in the whole of Monkey Dust.
Yeah, one reviewer said it was the very best joke in the series. Another reviewer said it was the reason why the series was dreadful. It's Ebola porridge. He says the Ebola virus, and he says, is that like Ebola porridge?
And one review said that it was the single and only joke as such in Monkey Dust, which is certainly probably the only pun in Monkey Dust.
Yeah, I mean, we don't normally do puns, but
for that reason it was the high spot of the show. And then other people have said, if this is the level of humour. So Simon, you won a fan, you lost a fan,
but we liked it. It was a kind of instant pun. And we were a little unsure. Lots of goes at doing these scientists because I was trying to get them sinister, and the animator was trying to think of ways to get them sinister. And in the end, Michelle achieved the effect just by not colouring them in, which I think worked rather well. That's got to be one of the most gratuitous, bloodthirsty moments in the series.
I think so. We have quite a few exploding heads.
But they did put servicemen in front of nuclear bombs in Bermuda shorts and Hawaiian shirts. And why did they actually make them dress up in holiday wear? that is perverse, isn't it? That's going above and beyond cruelty. We're not only going to expose you to radiation.
Now, we've got some bollocks for you here.
Yeah, listen to this scientific explanation.
Population of a small town.
It's absolute shit.
We keep doing this. We download whatever we need.
This we didn't download.
Oh, we literally made
normally when we want science, we
normally get a girl, somebody called Pippa, who works on the show, who's fantastic, simply to download from the internet words that we don't understand and we copy them down. But
we just made all that
literally made that up.
Yeah, we literally made that up. There was complete nonsense from start to finish. And now we're back with Peter Dixon, and this is where it gets a bit steamy because having told Peter that we'd written a sketch about him, we then wrote a sketch about his sex life. So he had to voice himself having sex with his wife, which has got to be one of the more unusual voiceover commissions in the world.
Oh, yeah, like that, yeah.
Who's providing the female?
Who is providing the female? It's Moena. It's Moena again, so she's reprising her sex life. So they had to have the sound of sex.
Split me in two.
It goes without saying, these are the recording sessions that they tended to enjoy the most. These went on for about half an hour, these orgasmics.
Well, we were just pissing ourselves laughing in the next room. But it's nice, but it shows that they love each other, I think. You know, it shows that it's not all cruelty. It's the best sex he's ever had.
When they first animated this, it was a great joke they had at the end. They put him in his blazer at the end, sat there, but we decided that cut across the general joke we were trying to do, but it was such a funny image.
It would have been very funny image.
We should have included that as a DVD extra, but we couldn't be bothered.
Yeah, no, I think it's nice. It's touching, that sketch, and it
Can we
it's a light relief. We've got to thank 07, yeah, because we weren't allowed to put this 07 track on the DVD by the record company, and 07 themselves kindly overruled their own record company. So well done, 07. And there's Consignia. And in fact, in the original of that, he was leaping out of the hammock and saying, Royal Mail! Yes. And then they actually changed it to Royal Mail. So we had to change it back to Consignia.
Now, there's a number of things in this, Ivan, which mark it out as different from the last two.
Not much different.
I can pay the rent.
Stop laughing.
See, I'm laughing at Simon's voice. It's just, and Steve May's drawing that's a great face. Ivan's got a sweet little face. You want to pat him on the head. Anyway, this is the one where Ivan murders Stuart McConey. Now,
we are really running out of 70s stuff here.
Well, yeah, we made a joke out of the fact that we were running out of 70s stuff later, but here we go, Magpie Annual, yeah. I think we actually went and bought a Victor Lewis Smith novelty nostalgia annual, didn't we? And wrote down the things in there. But anyway, we used to work with Stuart McConey because both Sean and I briefly worked on. Well, I worked briefly on the 11 o'clock show. Obviously, I resigned when I saw how dreadful it was going to be. But Sean stuck in there and indeed was probably responsible for most of your least favourite moments.
The really bad bits.
But anyway, Stuart McConey.
I think they called me the lame, Sean.
When I was producing the pilot. One of the presenters was Stuart McConey, and he was tremendously good and very, 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 very good at the job. And Channel 4 actually fired him because he had a bad haircut. And we said, well, we'll take him to the barbers. And they said, well, we don't like his teeth either. And then, bizarrely, they then auditioned Sean, and the executive in charge really, really liked Sean and sent it to the controller and said, no, he's got a wonky eye.
I've got walleye. It was like watching a monster, but that's enough about our lives.
No, but anyway, Stuart.
Stuart, anyway, is a very kind man for agreeing, because it's his voice that actually did. Harry had to fade him out.
So, Stuart, we've put you in a cartoon. Would you like to voice yourself in a cartoon? And he said, oh, all right, what do I do? And you get beheaded.
Yeah. It's slightly out of date in that this was around the time when Stuart McConey was the face of I Love the Past, all those addictive yet terrible programmes about things that happened in the past.
They weren't terrible, they were very, very good, and they were brilliantly presented.
That's very true, but he agreed to do...
I'm Stuart McConey, and I love 1970s.
He did it very well, actually. And poor old Stuart not only gets beheaded, but he has to appear in a cartoon in which his life is presented as a 1970s nostalgia programme. He actually lives in a house with 1970s wallpaper and lava lamps and listens to Tiger Feet by Mud all day long. It's a good song, actually.
Of course, come in. I was about to open a Party 7, although it's very tricky to open.
I remember Party 7, you see. A lot of this is my own tragic life again.
Wow.
I mean, again, it's a slightly ambiguous, Ivan's moral state, but I think we can safely confirm now that he does actually cut McConey's head off. So when he turns up at the end, he has actually beheaded him. He usually beheads them, doesn't he? He beheaded the Asian guy and put his head in a plastic bag.
It's just occurred to me that Mr. Hobby's faces changing facial expression was another thing the animators suggested to us quite early on.
Are you sure?
As a way of...
I don't remember that.
It was at the beginning.
I believe you.
Anyway, well done to them again.
Well done to them again. And the final episode of the club is turning up at their parents' house, or one of them's mum's house. And in the original TV show, Mum was listening to Cliff Richard, and Cliff has joined the roll call of shame of people who shamefully weren't prepared to back their country's export drive up by appearing on this programme, on this DVD. BBC were allowed to put him out on telly and without his permission, but we have to ask him to put music on this. So that isn't Cliff. Tragically, Cliff Richard did not want to have his image sullied. I don't know how it was done. It wasn't me personally, but
I don't think Cliff needs.
Inexplicably, Cliff did not want to be associated with a programme in which people's heads explode and elderly paedophiles entrap young girls. I don't get that.
No.
I think it could have reinvented him for a younger generation, myself. He's missed a trick. Congratulations, you've selected episode 4. Just thought we might say a few things about this title sequence, because it was done by Vehicle, who did the rebranders, but they wanted to do it a different style. They've done it in a slightly sort of 2D style, but it's not 2D in the pugwash way. It's just a really interesting and different way of doing it. We originally envisaged it as one shot. This whole part would be one shot, but actually they threw that out the window, and probably quite rightly. It was meant to go, daylight in the quiet bits and then night in the loud bits.
But we didn't give him a great deal of specifics about what to draw, so this is
a lot of it is there.
Very much the sick mind of the animator rather than the sick mind of us.
I love that shot that pulls up through the city. It's beautifully done. Beautiful bit of animation. Once you get to know a little bit about the mechanics of it, you begin to appreciate the skill. Oh, but it's Harry Ferris. We like Harry Ferris, the Canal Killer. This is Brian Bowles doing the voice, and obviously it's not difficult to guess where the idea came from. Having had a 70s killer, we thought we should have a 50s killer.
We thought, why don't we do the same jokes but go slightly further back in time? You'll also notice in this sketch that when we get to Ivan, we've completely run out of 70s memorabilia.
We've got 50s memorabilia. We've got condensed egg powder and Winifred Atwell records. But Brian Bowles doing a very good job of snorting over a woman in giant pants. And of course, Harry Ferris had to have a theme music to go with Mr. Pogo. And so we chose Move It. Oh, here was Ivan.
You didn't do the meat safe murders after all.
I think he gets a few, see. We're still clinging on there with David Cassidy and John
We haven't quite given up.
Haven't quite given up the ghost, yeah. Anyway, we get this nice little mix coming up of Ivan on his space hopper to Eddie Warner's Come from the 70s. And Harry Ferris, the Canal Killer, on his pogo stick to Move It by Cliff Richard. But of course, as you would know if you'd heard the end of number 3, Cliff wouldn't let us use any of his songs, so this is not the real Cliff Richard. This is Steve Isles again. Good, isn't it? Pretty good impression, actually. You should do that for a living.
I've seen you being held down by 23 warders.
Now, Ivan was kind of based on a generic. But in that bizarre way, cartoons have coming true. There were a couple of people, weren't there? 2 or 3 people released from prison that fitted the bill.
There were 2 or 3, but one especially was Stephen Downing, who was released about half a year. I mean, I knew who Stephen Downing was when we wrote it, but Ivan is in no way based on him. But he was released, and his press conference he gave after he was released, he basically went, "Hello, I've never done it. I'd like to thank
in a Derbyshire accent.
I can't do accents, but I'd like to thank the police." And he just lived in the 70s and tried to get a job, and he couldn't get a job, and he was Ivan Dobsky. Again, complicated by the fact that there was then doubt cast upon.
Well, there was a campaigning journalist who released him and proved that he'd never done it.
Yes.
And then as soon as they released him, they did some DNA tests, and the police said, "Right, that's it. We're not looking for anyone else."
I know. So
the whole ambiguity thing. And there's another one as well called Stefan Kishko.
Stefan Kishko was back way back in the 70s,
but he looks quite like Ivan. He's got an East European name. So there's a few Ivans out there.
But it was a generic. It was more based on a composite of all of these tragic people who were imprisoned by corrupt policemen back in the 70s.
And here's Mr. Jennings, or Mr. Drummond as he became in the second series when he was reborn, in his pyjamas opening the door, and he's got Harry Ferris in a pie. Ivan always has superhuman strength off screen, you'll notice.
Now this is the most dated sketch.
Hideously dated.
If you're watching this and thinking that we've sunk to a new low, you're right. Somebody noticed in a writers' meeting that Nigella Lawson was always very sexual around food, and we laughed and thought that's nailed Nigella. So we put in this sketch, and it's since been overtaken by Ronnie Ancona, Nigella herself. It's just so dated.
Yeah, I should point out that when the series was commissioned, we were asked to have a Heat magazine agenda.
Heat agenda, yeah.
BBC Three was going to have a Heat magazine agenda. It was going to have lots of celebrities, and even as we were doing the show, it became clear that celebrities didn't really fit. They were being crowbarred. And looking back on this series now, I think it's the bits with Nigella and Sven that stand out.
That are bad. They're
a bit squeaky.
We wrote for the original series a sketch about Jerry Halliwell as well that we didn't put in, which I'm so glad we didn't, because it was all based around the idea that she was fat, and it was just...
And was just basically one of the Spice Girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, thank God we ditched the Heat agenda for Series 2.
And to be fair, on BBC Three, they did too. I mean, they themselves said, OK, forget the Heat magazine thing, it's working far better without it. So we didn't.
Although we've got the rubbish, well, that's coming up in the next one.
Anyway, this is a sketch that we wrote, and we crowbarred onto Bert and George's characters, and obviously it's not nearly as good as theirs.
No.
It's obviously a vicious revenge on all sorts of people who've...
you can't tell a joke, but I personally
who've
think
told
this
stories
is...
about our life.
I think this is the least effective.
No, it's not. I
sketch
think you're getting. It's not the one about a joke. I think you're getting mixed up. This is the one where it's his football. It's girls don't know about football.
That's it. In that case, it's the second. I personally just think this is so static and talking that the animators have done miracles with the faces to get what we have on the sketch. But you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, you've got the DVD. Write to me and ask for your money back for that sketch.
This is a man who's very, very boring on the subject of Liverpool Football Club. Can't think where that comes from.
That's based on me. You can tell by my broad Scouse accent that I support Liverpool.
Yeah, I, on the other hand, being from from London, born and bred, support Everton.
Indeed. So anyway, we wrote this sketch about which was then turned bizarrely into an advert.
Yes, it's been done as an advert.
It did. Now this is a classic example of me and Harry not being able to write normal dialogue. We thought, just as a beginning to a sketch, we needed two guys in a pub chatting, and so we've written these two blokes in a pub having that conversation. I went down to football at the weekend. What'd you see? It was all football. Me and Harry have never had that conversation in our lives. We just assume that normal working people talk like that because we both grew up. We were born in ivory towers. So I apologise for that quite awful piece of normal dialogue. But we quickly get into voiceover, man.
Yeah, and we like it. And you'll notice he's in a crowded pub. Once again, we've thrown the animator and we said, put him in a crowded pub. So you notice the animators bravely put two people in the background doing not quite sure whatever.
Animators say things like, it might be more effective if there's just a couple of people there.
So. And in this case, that was all we were getting. I think I actually said, can we have more people in the pub? And the animator said, no, you can't.
In Series 2, we wrote a sketch where Jeff goes to Brazil for the Mardi Gras. As soon as the animator saw the words Mardi Gras, they weren't very happy.
Oh dear. Now this little cabbie going past, he's voiced very well by a gentleman called Kulvinder Gill, who some of you might know from, oh my God, what's it called? The Indian sketch show.
Goodness Gracious Me.
Goodness Gracious Me, that's it. He's one of the stars on that. And you might notice that Max Height is spelt wrongly on the right of that garage. Animators can't spell.
It's a universal truth that animators, talented and brilliant as they are, can't spell.
Can't spell. So that gives us a little moment of superiority late at night. Indeed. In our bedrooms.
Good at art, can't spell.
Yeah, exactly. They were the kids who did art because they were last in geography. Ha! That's told them.
Them in their place. Now we're back to Harry's life for the last time in this series.
And it's got the most story in it, this one.
This one is actually, yes, it develops as a theme. This is where we suspect that Timmy's not, in fact, Daddy's.
Well, we know.
Daddy's. Oh, can I just say, I love this bit.
Oh, I love this bit. Yeah, we read this. Steve Smith, brilliant bit of animation. The Robot Wars, where the other dad, the stepdad's got a much better robot. I just want to watch this for a moment. This is so vicious. The fact he's doing it to a robot is somehow worse. We've killed so many people, but the really heartbreaking bit is him on a toy robot. It's beaten up by another toy
But anyway,
robot.
this is the one where he starts to think that he's not actually Timmy's father, and this is based, surprisingly, on Harry's life.
Obviously.
I said that gratuitously. But the general theme is... now, we had a decision to make at the end of this.
Yeah. Oh, I should just say the design of Timmy's dad took ages and ages, and his real dad took ages and ages, and in the end we should just draw a bigger Timmy.
Yes.
And that gets the... And this bit of music, which keeps popping up all the way through the series because it's absolutely perfect, is actually a bit of old Harry Nilsson. But anyway, yes, he doesn't kill himself. This is the divorced dad sketch where he doesn't kill himself, so it's actually got a happy ending. So anyone who says this is a gratuitous sketch about a man who can't come to terms with his, getting divorced and his kids and what have you, he's alive. So I'd say heartwarming.
Indeed. Now it goes without saying that when we originally wrote the sketch, he killed himself quite gratuitously. And why did we chicken out at the end? I think we decided.
I think we decided it'd be better if he didn't kill himself. Yeah. Also, just to give an indication of how dated this series is, there's a joke, not a joke, but the line we use at the end to show that he's bonding with his son is that he comes in and has a conversation about football and says Chelsea are rubbish.
Yes.
So obviously it's many years before Roman Abramovich. We thought, what's an absolute given?
Yeah. However long we live, Chelsea will always be in the Premiership, but they'll always be underachieving. Underfunded. Ken Bates run, motley outfit, and then Roman Abramovich took over.
Yeah, here he goes, not killing himself. Rather beautiful sink, I think. Yeah. It's a beautiful sink of pills.
This is also an awful bit of dialogue as well, where Harry insisted on putting in something about playing a game of Ludo that always makes me cringe. Fancy game of Ludo. I don't think anyone's ever said that
I've
in the
said that
history.
Many times.
Well...
we're back with the cabbie. Kulvinder and his cabbie. Based on all those mini-cabs the tout for business late at night, we were trying to work out which part of the world he actually came from. I think we decided Ethiopia in the end.
I think we did, yes.
Although the voice is done by an Indian. And this link is to... This was one of the writers who fell by the wayside early on because of all those delays, and as well as Peter Bainham and as well as Rob Newman, a gentleman called Johnny Dawkes. And I think all that's left by Johnny Dawkes is two little tiny bits of this character. A bit like Will Smith and Roger Drew, very good on the words. Very, very, very good use of language. No visuals. Now we're on to another writer that you've written bits. A gentleman called Connor Lennon, Connor Lennon's a friend of Sean's.
He's a friend of mine, a very funny guy, now works, as I speak, for Radio Kent, I think.
This actually happened to him with the bus, but Sean introduced me to Connor Lennon, and Connor Lennon wrote this bus quickie, and then after everything that Connor wrote, Sean would walk into the office, pick it up and go, that's shit. Everything.
This is obviously
even if it's just
a lie.
his name. It's not a lie, and you know it. And in fact, Connor wrote the theme pub sketches with me as well. So obviously, Sean was particularly vicious about his input on these. What else can we say about Connor? It was one thing that's particularly pleasing about this sketch was that there's a passage of time effect in it. And how do you do a passage of time effect? It's actually a chance to put calendar leaves falling off the wall. You can do it in 1930s films, where it probably costs thousands of pounds, but there we go.
There you
Actual
go. It's the
calendar
next
leaves.
day.
It's the next day, and what do you know? Obviously, these pub sketches are based on all the changes. So this was quite a new change when the sketch was written. Quite a new idea.
This
that you
was.
could walk
We
into a
actually
pub and
we
it'd
actually
gone
had
gastro.
a debate when we were putting together Series 1, and we were saying, is this a bit of a London thing? And the fact that this happens in every villages now in Devon have had Ye Old Coach Inn turned into, the rat and handkerchief or something. But we were actually thinking this was a bit of a sort of Islington joke we were making, which proves
they were about
yet again
three.
how dated this.
Or how prescient we are. Depends whether you want to be.
Indeed.
Yeah. And the voices in the theme pub is Brian again. Brian is playing Keith. Brian's playing Keith and Ed is playing Brian, which is rather confusing, isn't it? We had a lot of these cabbies, as you can see. We actually wrote about 15 of these cabbies, and in the end we just chose the most visual ones. And which takes us to space. Now this is prescient. We wrote the space shuttle crash, and it was due to be broadcast 3 weeks before the space shuttle crashed.
And it really was one of those things of comedy being tragedy plus time, and we were actually trying to work out scientifically how much time we needed before. It also was the fact that it was American, so that added...
Well, it got banned. It did get banned.
It did get banned.
By everybody. And then Stuart Murphy, the controller of the channel, to his credit, actually decided that 3 weeks was enough time to do jokes about space shuttle crashes, given that there were no Brits involved. It's like there's, plane crash, no Brits involved. Now, David Baddiel's manager, this is Tarquin Geezer, is quite heavily based on David Baddiel's actual manager, who is a gentleman called John Thoday. He's also based on a man called Addison Cresswell, who's the manager of Jonathan Ross and a few others. And they're both kind of, laddish cockneys who actually, sort of about 6-inch veneer of laddish cockneyness, beneath which, they're Cambridge-educated nephews of professors, and the whole thing's
historians.
A complete act. I love this bit.
But they are colour to all our lives. This is one of our favourite bits of animation because of the amount of time the animators allowed for.
Yeah. Well, it's on the voice track. It's just a Shaggy Dog moment, but it is beautifully done.
And thank you again to David Baddiel for doing the voice.
Yes, for doing himself. Here we go.
Maybe 80 yards
David kills himself.
I'm closing in now.
And it's a nice silent bang. There we go. A real bang. And I should explain, if anyone's wondering why we have it in for the combative management style of David Baddiel's manager, that when we sent a cab to pick David up, there was actually we were told that David didn't travel by any cabs, that he had to travel with a cab provided by his own management company, and the fare from Belsize Park to Hammersmith was several £100s. This is so Tarquin Geezer is a real show.
Now the music we had there as the counterweight to the depressing music was
originally it was Mijuli,
of course, by Shaggy and Ali G.
Now I should explain, I used to produce Ali G in the very, very, very old days, the first few days of the 11 o'clock show, and worked on the TV series. Obviously I was not involved in the vast money-making, £1 million spinning film. Mysteriously that money went somewhere else.
I can happily report that Harry doesn't spend a day when he doesn't remind everybody about this.
That I could have been rich.
except for the fact that other people came up with the idea. This is an argument that's been running for quite a long time. But anyway, we were going to have Me Julie by Shaggy and Ali G, but Bosses told us we couldn't.
Yeah, because as you might have heard if you've been listening in any way to this, people have to be asked whether they can, whether their music can be used. Couldn't use Cliff, couldn't use Babylon. The people who own the Ali G copyright, which is our own Bosses,
our own company, we said we're making, it's a thing. You just help us
DVD,
out.
DVD, yeah.
Can we just DVD? Can we?
No.
Said
you're not taking a piss out of one of our products. So hypocrisy at all levels. What was he really doing?
I lost a bet in a dockside bar and had to fillet a monkey.
Thank you, Will Smith and Roger Giroux,
for that insight into their personal lives. I think the animators particularly enjoyed animating the A-Team. It was a real job for them, getting to do a little bit of the A-Team in the corner. It was just a gratuitous link. Now we're back once again to the complete nonsense. As I said, sometimes we do, download real information from the internet, but this is absolute rubbish. This historically, the stuff about the storming of the Bastille. I mean, I'm sure the king wasn't in the Bastille, which was a prison. It was just complete balderdash.
Well, we both have history degrees. I think I did a course in this. I can't remember.
Yeah, but we knew nothing about it and couldn't even be bothered to look it up.
We knew that we were heading towards the roof lifter of a joke, which was Sven-Göran Eriksson's Ubiquity. So we knew that everyone would be wiping away the tears. Now, here is a case in point about the danger of how long it took to get Monkey Dust on the air. I mean, it wasn't just the animation time. It was the government held up BBC Three for so long because it didn't have enough programmes about Welsh-speaking choirs or something and about teaching us how to be better people.
Anyway, so we decided it would be a good idea to write one of these sketches about steps, going on a murder tour of Great Britain and doing an appeal. And we actually wrote the sketch, and we were literally going into the animation process when Steps broke up. Out of the blue.
Steps broke up. So we went through, I mean, we're both middle-aged men that like indie rock. So we actually went through a whole meeting we had with each other, trying to decide which current girl or boy band wasn't about to break up, to the point of phoning round people saying,
we were asking,
is Atomic Kitten going on tour? Will they still be on tour next?
Yeah, we phoned the record company and asked about their tour details, didn't we?
Mr. Jenny on the horizon.
Could we keep the questions to the subject of the murder inquiry, please?
Yes. I'd like to ask Jenny if the anguish she's experienced over this dreadful murder has been in any way tempered by the prospect of a Mr. Jenny on the horizon.
I will allow.
Brilliant bit of animating there, and many other cases of Atomic Kitten. I think they're all from Liverpool, but when we got into the studio, we realised we had no idea where they were from, so we made them from Essex, and that's probably a terrible mistake.
It is, they are from Liverpool, but...
but there we go.
Yeah, Scousers ourselves.
It was all redone in a huge hurry, the steps to Atomic Kitten change.
Which is very sad, because the Steps animation was very, very good, and we had to scrap it all. Because still, you're a hostage to fortune in these things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maureen Gray, Mirror, are you now pinning your hopes on Atomic Kitten in the hunt for Daisy's murderer?
Obviously, I'd like to thank...
It was the idea of Physio as well to do this rather brilliant local TV thing where they broke up the monotony of the three people sitting behind a desk idea that we had by putting some of it on a rather shaky local TV station, which would actually sort of
and bits like this.
Gently.
I mean, we put this in the script, but they came up with the idea of
the man with the fuzzy hat.
For some reason, they seem to think cartoons needed to be visual.
Yeah, astonishing. One trouble with having, as you can see, the TV screen there is square. One trouble about getting a TV screen on a TV screen is that you have to squeeze the sides a bit. So whenever you see that local TV thing, it's about the world's only square telly. Anyway, we're back to Michael Fish because we're about to go into another theme pub, and if you remember, if you were listening earlier to our diatribe against poor old Kevin Day from the 80s, here he makes another appearance again. This is a pub that's been taken over by a bad stand-up. Here he is, who name checks Kevin 80s. Here we go.
With the exception of Kevin 80s, that whole list was based on a comedy club I went to where all the people that performed could well have had those names. And I had a very unsuccessful stand-up career, and I can assure
I've
you
seen
that
Sean stand up.
I can assure you that most of my gigs were in pubs like this.
One of the reasons Sean is now a writer is that I persuaded him just to stop him doing any more stand-up.
It was very
I've
dreadful.
actually been in a comedy club where Sean was performing, and not one person was not standing at the bar talking to their friends, and there was just another bloke in the corner talking with no friends.
Yeah,
It was just
in a microphone.
Yeah, that was the only difference.
And
really,
apparently,
wasn't it?
according to Harry, that joke that he just told there is based on a David Baddiel joke.
It is only a little based on David. David Baddiel made it funny, but I'm afraid it was definitely based
Now,
on David
this is an entire sketch from the Chat Room Pervert based around the inability of Charlotte to spell.
Yeah. And and that's En Reitel, by the way. We should just name check him. He's a Latvian ex-hippie, Estonian ex-hippie doing the voice. But yeah, there we were earlier on in the programme complaining about animators being unable to spell, almost as if we were ghastly old men. And here, by an amazing coincidence, is a ghastly old man complaining about kids who can't spell. We thought that would be the kind of thing that ghastly old men would complain about. It is hideously close to home, really.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like all these sketches, an attack on him, but it's when you begin to see bits of yourself in a grizzled paedophile that you begin to worry. This is the least visual sketch in the entire
We've written
series.
a cartoon, and there's actually almost a paragraph
It's
of
a
text
man
you have to
typing
read.
grammar.
It's
we did good. We were better in the second series. It was our first one. We're sorry.
Oh my God! You have to read things off the screen, and yet they give The Simpsons the awards.
They're inexplicable.
What's going on?
Oh dear. It's
Anyway,
almost embarrassing.
Back to the Nocturnes.
Back to the Nocturnes.
This is quite a grisly nocturne.
Oh, the rat on his yes, the rat doing
shit on
the pillow. That was the animator actually, and Ivan who's been beaten up, but we still love him. You see, it is sympathetic, and a nice expression on the space hopper, and finally the suggestion that the divorced dad's ex-wife gets much better sex elsewhere, which of course she does.
And there's Harry.
Yeah.
Looking in on his son.
Ah. Do I have one?
You do have one. But
What's
that's
his name? I've forgotten his name.
Sorry?
What's his name again?
Bill. You see, I know.
Oh, that's him. Yeah.
Now this is great for the sound effect.
Yeah. You can listen to the zips and rubber. And remember, this is done by an 89-year-old man, dignified Foley artist who's worked with the finest generation, directors of his generation, David Lean, Charles Crichton, and he's in a little room, and I'm saying, can you please do the sound of a gimp mask bending at the elbow as the Irish barman, forced into it, mimes fisting a customer. Oh dear, it's embarrassing doing this job sometimes. And then that's a bit of it. The Admiral Tatchell, that's a disgraceful reference to the pub in Old Compton Street.
That's a very, very poor reference,
What's it called?
The Admiral Duncan on Old
That's
Compton
it,
Street.
the Admiral Duncan on Old Compton Street.
For which we apologise.
Yeah. Now, David White is a very brilliant animator who did this, but I do worry every time I see this. It looks as if that woman's got a moustache, because the lines on the other side of her mouth are so big that she does look like one of those, unfortunately, hirsute ladies. Anyway, this is the first time Cottager going on his adult education course, cottaging, and there's a number of things in this that we like. In particular, there's a sequence which is another piss take of Hollywood, which very much parallels A Beautiful Mind. And it's beautifully done. It's done in black and white. We'll get there in a minute, but it's done in black and white, and it uses a bit of library music, which is just the minute we heard it, we said, "Yep, that is Hollywood, Beautiful Mind." But before we get there, we have him in the Bengali literature class, and this is Kulvinder Gill again. And Kulvinder Gill does the most incredible range of accents from every part of India, and of course, no reason why not. I mean, we're all used to good actors who can do every town in Britain. Kulvinder Gill can do every town and every province of India. So when it said Bengali literature, he just said, "Okay, and I'll do you a Bengali accent." So there you are, fact fans. This is a funny Bengali accent.
That's great. That's really great. Thanks very much. I'll just be.
And
one
also,
of the
I was just going to say that the animator, of course, then went and put a load of turbans on the people in the class. I'm going to say, no, take them all off again.
Indeed. Coming up is one of the most gratuitous references we make. In having said that this has nothing to do with homosexuality, this sketch, it's about middle class foibles. We have got a Red Indian and various other YMCA
Cliches. Terrible.
Cliches.
Where's the Red Indian? I think he creeps into one of these
There
shots. There he is.
Indian
There he
at
is
the
in the
back
left, yeah.
For which, again, I am forced to apologise.
I'm forced to apologise as well, but we do really like the idea of cottaging reduced to maths. Cottaging as geometry. It's a very funny idea. In particular, the fact that it's finally reduced to the idea.
We like the idea
that you should stand in front of the bloke who's
we like the idea that
behind.
Jeff is obviously a very well educated. He works, he fills out reports and everything. We know that he's the idea that he can crack cottaging with the use of simply learning about it
and learning to stand on the right side of the gentleman concerned.
We like, although. The Red Indian again, I apologise for, I'm very sorry. That really is two old men.
And that's not the animator's fault. We did actually write that in the script. We said, can we just glimpse a Red Indian? Now, N. Reitel, for some reason, insisted on doing this man as Kenneth Williams. I don't know why, but he wanted to do Kenneth Williams, which doesn't really sit with the bit that follows, which is taken from The Prisoner. So you've got a Kenneth Williams introduction to The Prisoner. If you're familiar with The Prisoner, you'll recognise the sequence. Same music, same. I don't know why. It just seemed right. It was the most famous determined man sequence in history. There's two bits of The Prisoner
and
music.
The White Ball as well.
And the White Ball as well. Yes, it's an homage or a lack of imagination, depending on your point of view. Municipal Park certainly is a lack of imagination. I hope we didn't write that. Municipal Park. It's like the Beano.
There'll be a park keeper in a minute. Oh dear.
No, this joke actually was the punchline to the first.
Indeed,
this was Peter Bainham's original. Peter
Bainham came up with this, and this of all the humiliations meted out on Jeff, I think is the nicest because it's just him.
Well, it's not that nice. He gets crapped on by a bird. I think we put that in.
We put that in. Just the fact that he thinks he's succeeded and he's made a mistake, and it's not society crapping on him. It's just his own.
Yeah, as if he'd suck a tree until dawn.
Know, but then we put in a bit at the end where a bird shits in its head, and that's just not right.
Ah. Well, that's the end of 4, and I should just explain that when we're putting the show together, we always put our best stuff, or the stuff we like most, in show 1, and anything left over in 2, and some of it in 6.
We like to end strongly.
And
so
that leaves 3, where we put some of our quite good stuff, and then obviously it's all good, but when we get to the stuff we're not quite as keen on, we tend to lump it all in 4, and especially
hide it in the middle of the
especially show 5. So here's show 5. Welcome to Monkey Dust, show 5. The title is actually American drug slang we got off the internet, about 100 pages of hallucinogenic references, and chose that for no other reason. It had the word monkey in it and was therefore automatically amusing.
It made us look cool.
It made us look cool, obviously, knowing about drugs.
Two men who have never, ever
taken anything of any substance.
Because we're too scared.
Just like we know about Ebola and the French Revolution. Anyway, and this series was first put up to the BBC in about 1989, 1990, and it was going to be written by me and Herring and Lee in those days, bizarrely. And it was turned down on the grounds that animation was old hat, which is management speak for too expensive, piss off. But now animation's a bit cheaper. They've invented computers. It got its second lease of life. So there you are.
So, this first sketch was essentially part of the heat agenda that BBC Three was so hot on. Yet bizarrely, it was written by Rob Newman.
Well, it brings that Newman satirical angle in, doesn't it?
Indeed, everyone that knows him for it. It was a really good sketch he wrote, which had the bizarrest ending, where we actually ended up going inside not Rob Newman's, inside Robbie Williams' brain.
Yeah, and seeing all the neurocircuits and everything.
And it was a wonderfully visual. You read it, and it was just too. Now you have to understand, if you remember back to show 1, that Biden Harris' idea of wild was a man standing on a street.
And we were going, what does this mean? What's he on about? Let's just get him to stand still at the end. And Rob actually sort of disappeared at that point because he'd run out of space in his diary. So we actually picked up. We just sort of tacked an ending on this sketch, which is sort of just the beginning backwards.
Oh yeah, I imagine if we'd gone with his original ending, then we'd be picking up Emmys now. And
yeah, well, there you are. One of the amusing things in this sketch is how outdated all the Heat magazine style references are. There's a reference to Dr. Dre, who's rather disappeared. And there's also a joke reference to Daniela Westbrook, which is rather out of date. And also there's a fantastic impression of Eminem by Hen Reitel, because nobody knew who Eminem was or how he spoke in those days. So he appears as Bugs Bunny, really. I think that's the only way to describe the voice of Eminem. He'll turn up in a minute. That's not the real Angels. Robbie is among the great and good who wouldn't let us use his music. What am I doing?
Here we go. A wise-talking New York Bugs Bunny as Eminem.
Indicates that chemical-intensive agriculture.
Yosemite Sam will be along in a minute to get that wabbit.
We also have some genuine, is it Brazilian or Portuguese?
We have Brazilian, well, it's the same thing. We have Brazilian, Portuguese, genuine, and obviously we didn't know anyone Brazilian Portuguese, so I got, it's the nephew of someone who used to come and clean for me. So I think it's this fella here. We have absolutely no idea.
This could be anything.
This could be anything. We could have been completely done over.
This could be saying Harry is a wanker.
Yeah, and he pays my aunt slave wages. And of course the actor playing Robbie Williams, who I think is Simon Lipson, who did a brilliant Robbie Williams, I think it was Simon. I had to copy the Brazilian guy and copy his Brazilian, so no idea what he was saying by the time it had been through those two layers.
She's going there to try and find a nose that fits.
There's the little Daniel Westbrook 1992 joke there for you.
If you can just stitch your sides back together with that up-to-the-minute comic observation. We can get on to this. Now, this is partly written by Conor Lennon again.
This is called Work Experience, and this is, it's based on those imbeciles you get in every office.
We'd like to think that Monkey Dust is a cutting-edge youth program, sort of exploring all sort of aspects of youth culture. Whereas as this sketch shows, it's simply two
embittered middle-aged men,
old men going, "Aren't young people rubbish?"
Yeah,
at everything.
Look how shit that young person is.
Look
she's
at this.
16, she's shit.
She can't do anything because she's so rubbish. And then, essentially, they went on to make this sketch into Grumpy Old Men.
This programme is basically the Daily Telegraph with indie music over the top.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, and swearing. And indeed, Ivan Dobsky.
We're going to miss
Now, this
you,
is where we did run out of 70s references.
Yeah, but we made a joke out of it. Here we go.
Innocent £120,000 compensation, 70s memorabilia, once base off and a fuck off.
That's a great delivery.
That wasn't in any way a joke. That was simply we sat there and we went, we can't do this.
Yeah, but you have to give credit. N. Reitel, who played Mr. Jennings, did that
did very, very
really,
well.
really brilliant. And again, this is another vicious attack on young people, because this entire episode is predicated on the idea that young people who find the 70s fashionable are all complete wankers. All that means is that Sean and I are both old enough to remember the 70s and are therefore very, very embittered about the fact we weren't born in 1982.
Yes. This is, Stinging Attack, written partly by me, a man who dresses like an off-duty policeman. Having a go at
people who wear flares for the first time.
Now, the other thing
years.
that marks me and Harry out as very sad is that we both really find that woman attractive.
Yeah, we used to think, that what could be sadder than dismal youths who sit in front of their computers falling for Lara Croft just because he's got big 3D cartoon breasts. But funnily enough, when you've been in a room for 6 months with a cartoon blonde.
Yes.
And
exactly.
Constantly go slightly stir crazy.
Constantly watching all the animation coming and saying, "Can we just go back to the?"
She's in a bikini. There's a couple of, and there's an orgy going on. Actually, I quite fancy the female space opera as well.
To be honest, this is as close to real women as we get. This is again, there you go, Coke references. The amount of.
Is that what they do with Coke?
Apparently,
cards.
I've been told
young
by
people.
I've been told by people I work with.
People who were born in the 80s.
Yes.
In the original box, you don't see many of them nowadays.
Yeah, I doubt that was the original box. This actually was animated by someone who was born in about 1980 and absolutely doesn't have any idea. Had to be told what a slinky was.
This is a rather strange Ivan. This is, of all the Ivans we did, the one that's least like the others, I think.
Well, we're beginning to develop it a bit visually, to be fair. I don't know, I don't go for her in the Boy George look so much. But this was the beginning of Mr. Hoppy being, the anthropomorphic bit of Mr. Hoppy, because this is a bit where he goes on drugs, and obviously if he did inject himself, he'd simply deflate. but we sort of decided to make him a bit thinner, like some of the air had got out.
It's Mr. Hoppy.
But it's very emotional, this. This is where we began to really make Ivan a heartstring tugger. Before that, he was just a bit down, but here we have really sentimental music, and, you know, it's that old bit of Harry Nilsson again. And, yeah, it's almost love story, isn't it? It's almost, what's that Bette Midler one about flying with wings and stuff? It's that kind of thing. It's chick flick stuff.
I don't know. I only like new bands.
No, I'm talking about films.
Like The Blur. Oh, sorry.
Oh, thank you. You're the kindest man what I've ever
Guess what's going to happen, folks?
It may be a heartstring tugger, but he's still got to cut someone's head off.
Still following the basic formula. Essentially, we did many of the sketches we wrote for Monkey Dust followed a theme. All the ones that we repeated, we would write it, then we would repeat it. This was an accident we'd struck upon. Yeah. Then we would vary it very slightly.
And then we'd switch it round, reverse it.
We'd reverse it at the end, and this basically follows this sort of theme. This is a slight variation we've done here, and you'll see in number 6 that we've reversed the concept slightly.
Yeah. Now here we really well. This is just about the last thing we wrote in the whole series.
We suddenly realised that we had written radio sketches which had been rescued for us by animators, and we thought, no, let's write something really visual.
And there's lots of jokes in the background you can barely see.
And you can have SAS Onslaught.
Jensen button crashing. Then there's Gorilla Carnage and Shark Mayhem, both of which are the same game with the same sound effects. You can't follow any of this because it's all going by so fast. Great dubbing job by the soundman though. But we really love this, the 80s.
This was written specifically to get something visual in, and it was this.
And it was brilliantly done by David White, and a crappy 80s video game. It's really, really brilliantly done. I noticed that the knob-shaped handle there that David put in.
Gratuitous, can I again apologise for that?
I'm just going to enjoy this for a moment. Not in any way, because we've run out of things to say, but it's got that sort of Super Mario feel about it.
An old Super Mario.
A very old Super Mario.
Of course, this again shows how dated we are. We're not down with the latest PlayStation 2 or Xbox games.
For 5 years. Game over.
Oh, poor old Jeff.
Poor old Jeff, and of course we've all been there at the bottom of that list, haven't we? Although I actually was very good at Space Invaders once. Then
Space Invaders.
Yeah,
this
that's
is
how old
the limit.
I am. That's how old I am. I was good at Space Invaders. And then we're back in work experience again. This is the point where we take a little refreshment break. We've been talking for 2.5 hours. It's to give you that home cinema experience. You've got the home cinema sound. We're giving you the experience of the.
Sat behind you in the.
Yeah. So just sort of.
In fact, very much so. You're trying to enjoy the DVD, and you've got two people rabbiting on.
Rabbiting on him.
Said this afternoon.
Utter nonsense behind. Oh, young people stupid.
She told me to put this fork in the plug. That's not strictly
There's smoky bacon.
From a work experience, I'm Kelly.
What I actually said was...
Never mind.
Anyway, I think that's the end of the break. We're now going on to Frank's hobby.
This is written by
Knife and Packer. And anyone who reads Private Eye magazine will know that they do a cartoon in there. It's very funny, called It's Grim Up North London, and I just like that cartoon, so I got in touch with them. My brain obviously working on the premise that anyone who could draw 3 cartoons in a line would be able to write for cartoons.
Now, this is a fairly basic idea, which is old person doing something you wouldn't expect them to do. But it's pretty funny. But the thing that we really like about the sketch is
which we put in,
which ends, no disrespect to Knife and Packer, which ends with a dog with the face of Hitler and breasts. And the person who animated this,
it was their first sketch. Yeah. It's Sam Morrison. It was his first ever sketch he'd done for us, and we met him, and he said, "Right, what do I have to do?" And we said, "Well, you have to animate a dog with Hitler's head and big breasts." I said, "Can you make them quite sort of, quite big, shapely breasts, sort of a bit like a model?" And he did have a look in his eye, and he had a very worried look in his eye.
That was Ethiopian Cabby just before then.
And now this is the Johnny Dawkes character again.
Ending on 98. And linking effortlessly into Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe, which of course we changed for one of our seamless links.
Yeah. Johnny Dawkes' character, obviously a loser, so it fitted in perfectly. And then we're on to this is the werewolf version of the Middle Class Dinner Party, again animated by Suzanne Deakin. And these are the Bert and George characters, but this actual sketch was a knife and packer sketch. This is my least favourite one in the series, not because of anything wrong with the animation or the writers, but I think it's my fault. I was trying to cram one pair sketch into a pair of writers' animation, and I don't actually think these characters necessarily fit the writing. Also, it was animated right at the end. But anyway, there you are. Not my favourite, this one. Not in the same class as Blake, who obviously did it. But you can't win them all. And it was quite funny, the idea of some werewolves.
And we did warn you at the end of 4 that 5...
5's the stuff we put the stuff that we weren't quite as keen. There's actually no spare material in an animation series. You do 3 hours of animation. That's why there's no leftover sketches on this, because if there'd been even a minute left over, I'd have been in deep shit with the
It costs £1 million a second.
Now there's Tony Blair. We should have a little word about Tony Blair, because we had this idea that in this miserable nocturnal landscape, this grim Blair's Britain, that there'd be a sort of backwash going on of Blair spouting optimistic rubbish. And in fact, BBC Three really liked it, and we didn't bother putting it in the second series because we thought we'd done that, but they liked it so much they've told us to put it back in Series 3, so there'll be more of that in Series 3.
Although Tony Blair might not be.
Tony Blair might not have a Series 3, but we will, thank God. But there was a company down in Shepherd's Bush who had this fantastic showreel in which they'd take photographs and they'd animate the photographs. And they promised us that for a modest fee we could have Tony Blair saying anything we wanted. So obviously we thought that was fantastic, and we paid them a vast sum of money to do it. And if you look very closely at those Tony Blairs on the TV, obviously a bit late now, but you'll see them next time round, you'll see that what the Tony Blair mouth is doing bears no relation to any of the words we gave them. It's simply going up and down in a way that a small child with a basic animation program on their computer could have managed. But there we go. Can't win them all again.
This was us moving Clive onto the Bible.
Yeah, we'd run out of films and plays and
wanking like a safari park
and CDs.
Wanking like a safari park chimp, though.
We liked the line "wanking like a safari park chimp," as indeed did the man from Jockey Slut. That was his favourite line in the series. Very well done. Now, this is a sketch by Bert and George. This is we really like this sketch, actually. So just to contradict ourselves about Show 5, we really did like this one. We put all this stuff on the top, though, this sort of 7 type stuff, just to give it atmos.
It's slightly strange, this sketch, because it's a spoof, and...
Well, it's not really a spoof. It's sort of a spoof of the conventions rather than a spoof of the actual shows. It's a spoof of the conventions that all murder mysteries have to unfold interestingly through the clues being gradually worked out and then end up in a showdown somewhere. And what would actually happen if the bloke just made a stupid mistake and it ended in the middle, which is, if you haven't seen it before, that's the murderer there who's simply nodded off at the scene of the crime. So it's sort of a spoof of those prime suspect things, but you'll notice that the animator, Sam Morrison, who's a very good animator, he hand draws everything and then puts it in his computer, but he used an outrageous labour-saving device of giving this man an unfeasibly large moustache that actually covers his mouth so that he doesn't have to animate him talking, which is a huge cheat, really. I think we should have deducted some of his fee for that. But talking of prime suspect, I actually did meet Helen Mirren once.
This is where Harry starts.
It's very exciting.
Treat this as a chat show.
I know, but it was very exciting because I used to produce Have I Got News for You in those days, and I went with Paul Merton, Angus Deaton and Ian Hislop to an awards ceremony, and Helen Mirren, who was very foxy in those days, came over and looked at the three of them and said, "Well, I've come to talk to the naughty boys." And not one of them, or me included, could actually speak at all for about 2 minutes. It just sat there, mouth open. Even Paul Merton could not say a word. And in the end, she had to leave because nobody could. We were also overcome with lust. We were all 12 again. Couldn't bring ourselves to speak.
I imagine Paul Merton tells that anecdote, but without your name at the beginning.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
Me and the sergeant have got a few things to clear up here. We're just going to.
Helen Mirren tells it without any of our names.
You get up to while we're not looking. It's your own business.
As you can see, this is one of the longer sketches.
And there are green planks behind them.
Oh, we didn't write it. Who cares? It's rubbish.
Well, it certainly nearly pushed them over that threshold. That
It did.
gave
I
them,
think
gave
it's
them the
this one.
credit.
It's either this one or the last one. It is this one, I think, where...
No, I think it's the last
I'm
one.
fairly sure it's this one, where they were pushed over, and I didn't look when we were doing the credits at the beginning, but I think Bert and George got on the main frontispiece.
Which was a terrible mistake.
Terrible
error.
Terrible
We
oversight.
argued for hours about how that happened.
And it was the production manager, Ali Cox, who did it on purpose.
Yeah.
Specifically playing with our own rules to get someone else's name on the credits.
Just, Well, this was actually the first Frank's Hobby. This was the first sketch that Knife and Packer did. So it was the second one. The Hitler dog we adulterated was the second one. This one was Bonsai Chickens, which was a concept I thought was rather amusing, but in particular it was rather nicely animated by Sam Morrison. It's a rather beautifully animated tiny chicken, all hand drawn. Isn't that beautiful?
You apply the trimming and pruning to an infant chicken. Oh my goodness! So are they running all over your backyard then?
And the voices, Moena and Kate, Moena Banks and Kate Robbins, getting a chance to delve back into their roots.
And there you go, a genuine visual joke.
A visual joke. That's why we liked
little
it.
eggs.
And a chicken flapping a door.
Yeah.
Now we're back to work experience again, and if you listen carefully, on the basis that all music that's playing there and then live in the cartoon is shit, I believe there's a piece of 5, Keep On Moving, that's playing in the background.
Of course, numeral 5, IVE.
And it is one of the tragic ironies of this show that, every time we play a bit of crap music, they get some money.
They get some money. So whereas with the outset we wanted to certainly highlight some of the really the hottest... Get me, like hottest bands, the best indie music. We're also giving money in equal measure.
We're actually helping the careers of some of the worst
of 5
worst bands in the world. Okay, now this is one of the most contrived links ever.
This really is a case of more is less, as in we thought, well, should we do a subtle link? No, let's just put all the various aspects we've seen so far into one link. A Hitler dog with tits eating a tiny chicken, a woman landing on him, and a man about to hit her with a big hammer.
From about 4 sketches.
We just thought people would look at that and think either, oh, for God's sake, or genius. And luckily... genius.
And we're back to Sven again. I'd like to point out that I do know an awful lot about penguins. I can tell you about Magellanic burrowing penguins.
Luckily
for
anyone listening to
rockhoppers.
this, I'm here to talk over him, so we don't need to have that. We wrote so many of these Sven sketches. I think this is the last one, isn't it?
I would just like to point out that you have been denied a penguin educational experience of epidemic proportions.
All of these sketches were simply based on where Harry had recently been. He'd recently been to the Antarctic. And so we had to think about penguins.
Actually, no, I saw that on that David Attenborough thing. I just would like to point out as well that having warned you that Show 5 might not be the strongest of the series, it certainly isn't the strongest of the audio commentaries. But never mind, we're being rescued.
We come to the 4th. Now, this is the 4th bloke who...
well, this is the one where they caught someone.
They caught someone. And this was in no small way based on the very sad case of...
what was his name?
Barry George.
Barry Bulsara, that was
Barry Bulsara, named after Freddie Mercury in the Jill Dandy.
The Jim Duckworth murder case.
Jill Dandy case. Without forming a view as to
without forming a view
George.
of any kind, I knew a BBC News reporter who told me that she'd actually been into his flat and that he lived literally a foot deep in McDonald's wrappers. He was an out-and-out nutcase, and he was well known as the local nutter for the whole time the police were wandering around, and you could just see their minds gradually thinking,
yes,
we've got to get someone soon.
So on the basis of that, we thought it would be satirical, I think, for the police simply to have arrested the local nutcase.
Again, brilliantly animated by the boys from Fizzy Eye. And... and of course he had a variety of aliases, like the real Barry, who I think had a number of rock aliases, didn't he?
For his own safety, he is being held in the nonces wing of Fordham Prison.
That, of course, is what nonces look like. If you want to know what a nonce looks like, they're about twice the size of an ordinary human being, bald and grey.
Say a few words to express how very relieved I am that someone...
I always like Dr. Harris's eyes. I think they've animated his eyes. I don't know why. One
bizarre
pupil
way
is
they've
round
got
and one is a dot, but it's genuinely sinister, isn't it? It's
As is this.
This must be a great relief for your wife and for your other stepdaughter, Polly.
Yes, we weren't quite sure how to end this one, so
This
we
wasn't.
put, we put Polly
the
in.
Polly thing is, and people objected to this as well. I remember at the time.
Yeah.
Because we're clearly implying that he's murdered a number of his children.
Well, he has. He has.
So there were objections, but
Silly, flirtatious, provocative little slut.
yes, that was the line.
That was the line, wasn't it? Yeah.
That,
we're trying to get ourselves in the character of these people.
Fantastic holiday.
exactly, but it was making the point that the police were so rubbish.
Now, on this occasion, we do not go off to the weather as normal. I have no idea why. Instead, we go down a mine with Sven and David Baddiel after a bit of John Prescott. This was the same people who did Tony Blair, but they did it a lot better with Prescott because it was bigger. I think they were trying to get away with it with the tiny Tony Blairs, but you can just about say that was plausible Prescott talking, couldn't you? It's all done with a still put into a computer, and the coordinates of the photo are moved in accordance with a moving Blair. But anyway, down a mine, down we go. This rather bizarrely brings together several bits of several sketches. It brings together David Baddiel, Sven-Göran Eriksson, and the nephew of my Brazilian cleaner, because he also got the chance to play Roberto Carlos.
He does.
And we gave him a lot of rubbish about Mark Lamar to say, and I had to train him how to say Mark Lamar, because he'd never heard of him, obviously. Mark Lamar's peculiar charm not having crossed the Atlantic yet.
Bizarrely, of all the things that are out of date, I believe Steve McManaman was name-checked there, wasn't he?
Yeah. Although I'm glad to say that England still do have a problem on the left side of midfield. They're still playing right-footed players over there.
Although we're actually recording this on 2 days after England lost 2-1 to France.
Yeah.
So,
and in fact, England have a problem in many, many more departments.
yeah, so who knows what's happened since? Presumably we're now European champions when you're listening to this.
Or we lost to Switzerland and Croatia.
Yes,
and
but I don't know, time will tell.
Anyway, this is David Baddiel theorising about the ease of scoring a goal. David Baddiel is one of the remarkable number of comedians who like to pretend that they once had a trial for Crystal Palace. But I can vouch for the fact he's dreadful at football. Sorry, David, but you are. And there's the Brazilian cleaner's nephew, being Roberto Carlos, and talking about Mark Lamar. And Simon Lipson it was that played
Now,
Sven.
this piece of script was written by a gentleman,
Stuart, our editor.
We wrote something, obviously, as what people would shout at a football crowd, and it was, "Looks a Lumley, you come on, Rovers," or something.
It turned out that Stuart himself
rarely shouting anything at football
Stuart
matches.
himself had actually been thrown out of a Tottenham game for shouting at Martin Keown, who was defending for Arsenal, and he said, "Keown, you're a pubic-headed rubbish fucker," which we thought was a fantastic bit of barracking.
Exactly.
So we decided our voiceover man should be chucked out in the same way that Stuart had been. He's our editor, and I wouldn't like to chuck him out. He's very big.
He's a big fella. Can we
anyway,
thank someone?
We need to thank someone. We need to thank Dot Allison. This piece of music is called Message Personnel by Dot Allison, very talented singer. It's off her first album. Do go and buy it, it's still available. Yet again, the record company inexplicably did not want Dot's music to be on the DVD, didn't want her associated with us, but she vetoed it. Saved the day, so well done, Dot.
Now, this sketch is, again, we're nearing the end of writing the whole thing, and we just decided we needed far more visual things, so we came up with the idea of an old couple who are very, very lovely, but he, secretly has spent all of his life being gay or bi-curious, at least, and so every time he goes to sleep, he dreams about having sex with men.
He dreams a world of
gayness
and arses,
basically. So, but it was a chance to try and do some visual stuff, and these were very good visuals.
And the animator Dennis Sisterson was almost as disturbed, if not more, than Sam Morrison was when he was asked to do the large-breasted Hitler dog. A plane diving into an arse mountain was not a request he'd had before.
No. But that was us. You see how we've come on from man stands in street to
to plane dives into arse mountain. And the music, which is perfect, is called Utterly Simple by Traffic. That took a lot of finding, but it was bang on that sort of
I hate this.
psychedelic
We talked for
60s.
hours about what line, and Harry insisted that she said, "Did you dream anything nice?" Which I insist nobody ever waking up has ever said to their partner ever in the history of the world.
I have no recollection of this fantasy conversation.
But we couldn't think of anything better, so it stayed in. And
I don't think she even said that, did she?
She did. Anyway, and this is the final chat room pervert. Now, we had a big debate as to whether we should simply put this in show 1, because this took the curse off
Yeah.
the whole chat room pervert thing, because at the end of here it's revealed that
there are no children involved at all.
There are no children involved. It's
Parents.
actually liaising with another pervert, which, believe me, at the time, that was,
Was the height of satire.
funniest joke you've ever heard. Possibly lost some of its appeal now that it's
been done
possibly
100
not the
times.
most original joke in the world.
I'd
and it's
also
been-
like to point out that was my Guinness Book of Hit Singles, which I lent to the animator, which they appear to have sort of taken a photograph of. Never saw it again.
Indeed.
Benji? Charlotte? Shit.
But anyway, that was...
That was the resolution of Chat Room Pervert.
So we had to
And we
decide
never went
whether to
back
put
there.
that in the first one and just run the others,
And
or...
we thought we'd put it in, even as we were doing the series, it was beginning to get the faint whiff of show 5 about it.
Exactly, the whiff show. The chat room whole series we were seriously toying with not putting in, but unfortunately it cost too much money to make. So we had to end up putting it in.
No spares in animation. One thing we should talk about, of course, is the fact that this series has been remixed in 5.1 surround sound, very brilliantly remixed, I should say. And cartoons always sound good. They tell me, experts, always sound good in 5.1 because every single bit of sound on there has been made up. It's not a recording of anything wild or anything real, so every little bit can be put wherever you want in this 3D stereo picture, which makes it all the more inexplicable that you're listening to us, frankly.
It does. It does.
But if you want to hear some really good 5.1 sound, it's to be heard in this first sketch, which is about to pop up in a minute, which is called Celebrity Avenger. And it's written by Will Smith and Roger Drew and achieved a little bit of notoriety in the press because it's where Dr. Fox is torn apart by dogs. And the notoriety was not because people were upset by this, it's because they were very, very pleased that Dr. Fox had been torn apart. But they originally wrote a whole score of these, didn't they? There were tons and tons of them.
There were about 8, and they all went the same way, which was that a celebrity was ripped apart. And in hindsight, maybe we should have put more in.
Maybe,
I think that may have been a mistake on our part, because they're very funny. But the things we love about this sketch are, A, Dr. Fox is the perfect person. He was then, and bizarrely, I think he still is now. Of course, a week after this went in, it was announced that he was no longer calling himself Dr. Fox. But
we were worried.
And we were worried, but then as we discussed, once you call yourself Dr. Fox, you're always Dr.
There's
Fox.
no
in the
way of
public
getting out of
sense.
it. Unless you're Dr. Liam Fox, who mysteriously is not known as Dr. Fox in any way, even though he is a doctor.
Who would confuse themselves with Dr. Neil Fox?
Indeed.
But we like this sketch, and it was also the fact that it wasn't just gratuitous death, this sketch. There were some fantastic lines in it. That's a lovely bit of animation.
Yeah, and that's surround sound. That arrow comes from the back of the room.
But physician, heal thyself, and if you're not a doctor, you must be a fox.
There's fantastic lines. That's why we put them in. In fact, let's listen to them.
If you're not a doctor, then you must be a fox.
But we thought that was such a lovely way to start the last show with such gratuitous death.
And Enrightel is scary, and that's Jim Lefebvre animating. That's brilliantly, brilliantly animated. And I still get lots of tapes from Dr. Fox's agent sending me tapes in the hope that I'll employ Dr. Fox in a more serious capacity. Anyway, we're moving on to a sketch which is called Colin's Girlfriend, because that's Colin there, the tough negotiator, and it's based on the idea that even really sort of tough guys who go into tough situations get rung up by their wife or girlfriend being slightly, how can I put this diplomatically, slightly tricky in a manner familiar to both Sean and myself.
Indeed. Anybody who accuses me or Harry and the show generally of being misogynistic is proved utterly right by this sketch.
It is misogynistic, but
we've shown. Harry was just saying, whenever we sat in any sort of editing suite putting the show together, all the men in there would sort of nod and smile to themselves.
Oh God, yeah, I've been there. Yeah, it's that cool when there simply is no way out of the fact that you're going to be in trouble. Any line said by anyone can be interpreted to your detriment. And a brilliant bit of Geordie Madman by Simon Greenall, who I did say earlier on came from Carlisle, but of course Carlisle's quite near Newcastle, and anyway he can do any accent. He's the guy that played the garage owner in Partridge,
and the porter when he was living in the hospital. So
yeah,
if you've heard that before, that's why.
That's why. Except he was a lot crosser that time. Anyway, we used that as a link into the weather, and this was actually the first one that Bert and George, I think, or the first one that whoever it was, came up with about pressure. It should really have gone at the beginning of the series, but it actually depended on on sunshine, and of course, as Monkey Dust is set in a miserable world of nighttime, we only had one sketch that began in sunshine, which was another one of the Gay Dreams.
Well, we did the first Gay Dream, and we thought it was animated so well, and we liked the visuals that we, as you'll notice, just done exactly the same sketch. No pretense at all that it's going any different sort of way.
That was quite nice, isn't it? Although we didn't really have enough time, I'm afraid. So beautifully done, but it begins to look slightly less beautiful around about this part.
Morning, dear.
Have any nice dreams, love?
And there we go. Have any nice
dreams, love. That's the line I'm supposed to have perpetrated, which is monstrous. I have no recollection of it, but
line.
Have any nice dreams, love. Well, I'm prepared to take all the discredit you like.
So this is the final of the bloke obviously did
final,
it, but
Euro bloke who obviously did it. And this is entirely based on the fact that the word chilling is wildly overused by our news media.
I saw only a week ago there was a case that's going on at the minute.
Sorry to interrupt, just wanted to name check the animators for the fantastic words they keep putting in the corner. Go on.
But exactly this, it was another case of Monkey Dust coming true. As a news report, the reporter used the word chilling about 5 times in the report about somebody who's just been done for murder now. So we were prescient even then.
Isn't that wonderful? And we were very nearly caught out by events here. We took the risk of claiming that Gary Nuttall had pretended to be Estelle Morris, the Education Secretary, and it was just about to go out on air. It was like 2-3 days before it went out on air that Estelle resigned and managed to be replaced by Tessa Jowell, I think. Well, we certainly put Tessa Jowell in. Here we go. If it was live action, you'd notice the lip sync move, but cartoon lip sync's a little bit simpler. Watch for Tessa.
Fooled neighbours into believing that he was Tessa Jowell.
You can really hear that, can't you? You can hear that edit.
That was dropped in.
Yeah, I love the sexy T-shirt as well on the girl.
He had a chilling obsession with celebrities.
But this is also taken largely from what happened after Barry George Balsara was found guilty.
All the interviews with neighbours, and whenever they talk to the neighbours, there's always those neighbours who try to imply they sort of knew. Okay, they didn't know he was a murderer, but they kind of had the idea. And we love the drunken bubbles in Dr. Harris's glasses and the brilliant dance he does to Boogie Oogie.
And the wife's still looking.
Yeah. He's about to dance any second now.
Let's boogie!
So we said goodbye to Dr. Harris.
Oh, what a wonderful man. And that was actually animated without the music. They didn't have the music. They guessed Boogie Oogie Oogie from their memory, and it's a perfect fit, I might add. And here's another character we love, as played by Brian Bowles. It's Mr. Drang.
Prepare to execute the prisoners. Look,
this is compassion, I think.
We weren't spying. We were just on a simple beach holiday.
It is.
I can prove it. Bring my girlfriend.
My only worry here is that people wouldn't get that was Colin from the earlier sketch.
I think they would when the phone rang.
But...
yeah. It's actually animated by the same animator who did the sweary baby at the beginning of the series.
Probably remember the
Picasso.
the quite wonderful performance in that.
Yeah, the Scottish mum and the parents were terrific. Gay Child, I think that sketch was called.
Well, I cross now, because you say I cross.
It was just the idea of a thinly disguised Pol Pot having the same argument with his girlfriend, or indeed anyone's girlfriend or wife that anyone's ever had, any man's ever had.
Of course, executing hostages now is slightly dodgy. We would get into trouble this week.
Yeah, but it's a DVD. You can get away with anything on a DVD.
I can wait all day, you know.
Now we're back in the Ethiopian cabbie, and the unusual one here is, as you can see if you've got the brightness turned up, is that the passenger is David Baddiel as himself, and this in fact is the cab that hundreds of pounds were charged by his management company.
You're Frank up to one of his hobbies? Oh, yes.
This was again, we just wanted a visual, so we've ripped off The Fly.
Yeah. In fact, I think we wrote this one, didn't we?
I think so.
I think we took their characters and ripped it off and
as you can see, I mean, obviously it didn't work like this, but from show 1 to 6, but the writing process, we just wanted to do more and more visual things to make up for
and more things with our names at the top.
The utter radio sketch mentality we'd started out with. So we had a man turning into a fly, and indeed the head
which should be going, help me.
Now this was the most prescient one we did. When we wrote this sketch, there were no call centres in India. This was just us thinking, wouldn't it be hilarious if they went to the subcontinent for cheap labour?
And lo and behold.
And it became just a staple joke.
And all the voices, all the Indians in the Indian call centre are the same actor. That's Kulvinder Gill again. It was in Goodness Gracious Me. So a more vocal pyrotechnics from him.
But I think one of the bizarrest Monkey Dust fans was
the most bizarre thing of all. We got when the show first came out, and obviously we were expecting a ticker tape parade down Fifth Avenue, and possibly a call from the Queen, and we actually just got a couple of tabloid papers saying paedophile horror at the BBC. We were feeling a little bit friendless, and we got a phone message saying that the show was absolute genius, a work of magical achievement that was staple viewing in his house from the Pakistani High Commissioner. I can only assume that a few jokes that appeared to be at the expense of Indians were what that he was really enjoying.
I mean, believe me, we'll take fans of the show wherever, but it was.
Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't have guessed.
I don't know if it was the High Commissioner or the Deputy High Commissioner, but it was one of the top men in the Pakistani High Commissioner who were being unbelievably kind to us. Very, very, very kind. And there's Kulvinder again. All right, now we're on to some sketches that have always proved very popular with people, the 11 people who've seen the show, the cyclists. Yes. The Bert and George sketches, congratulations to them. Genuinely satirical attacks on cyclists because
they were the scum of the earth.
Everyone hates cyclists.
Utter scum of the earth.
And I used to ride a bike and I hate cyclists, and I always did. It's like being a student. You've still got to hate yourself in those circumstances. And it does make good points about tarmac surfaces and sweatshops and pollution, but the main reason to be behind the sketch is that it's just anti-cyclist. Like the hands melting into the handlebars. That was animated by Michelle Yu at Slinky Pictures.
This is one of my least favourite sketches in Monkey Dust. Harry wrote it. We had a big argument about whether it should go in. Other people have laughed at it and told me they think it's funny, but I just don't see what's funny about this at all.
This is actually, I didn't actually write it as such. Myself and Marcus Bertman wrote it down. Somebody actually said, it was my girlfriend's brother actually said it. Somebody told him he had cancer.
It's not like there's a little strap along the bottom of the screen that says this is true. Anyway,
it was
going over an argument we had about 3 years ago.
Somebody said their sister had cancer, and he said, really, I had a filling taken out last week.
This is classic Bert and George.
Classic Bert and George. Bert and George specialise in middle-class people confronted with grim reality.
And the thing that we loved about the sketch on first reading was the use of the word flinty to describe the taste of cum.
Yeah, it's very good. It's quite flinty.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a fairly basic sketch. Let's face facts.
But it's like the middle class people being sold plutonium. It's like the middle class dinner party with the bomb in the wall or the Russian roulette. It's the middle class woman with a glass of cum. It's middle class people have a really, really unpleasant eruption of reality into their lives. This is quite Bert and George heavy. This it must have been a bit worrying financially.
Yes, I think we just managed to keep them under the quota,
under the high jump bar.
There was just a detail there that I noticed: costly coffee in the background. We spent hours writing puns on shop names.
Yeah, we wanted lots of coffee. We had this idea for an entire high street that had been taken over by coffee shops, and there was nothing else left.
Yeah.
And we didn't use it in the end. So I think we just gave a few of them to the.
But they're in the background. I doubt you're picking yourself up off the ground laughing at it.
Texture.
It's texture. It's texture. Flavour.
Yeah. Now this one's this one I thought this was your least favourite, but
I've
your second least favourite.
I've lots of least favourites, depending on what I'm watching. I mean, we wrote this, but I didn't. It's just a bit rubbish, really.
I think it's more, isn't it more misogynistic hatred of...
It is, but in the context of cartoons,
it's sexist. It's sexist rubbish.
We don't kill anyone. Nobody.
It's sexist rubbish. It's birds can't tell jokes. Sexist stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's very well acted and it's very well animated, but I would blame the writer for. But other people say I've had people say they like the middle class stuff, but
it's all middle class stuff. What are you talking about? This entire series is middle class stuff.
I think the reason I don't like this sketch is because I'm just getting annoyed that she can't tell the joke properly. I'm not finding it funny. I'm just finding it really annoying.
Getting to that, Duncan. So, right, the barman asks, what was your third wish?
Not that it's ever happened to either of us in any way. And yet again, this was a situation where we had a vaguely middle-class people sketch that was put onto characters that we already had. And I think these characters worked best in the original sketches that Bert and George wrote, where they've done some home improvements.
Hasn't stopped us bringing them back in series 2 and 3 again and again.
No, but Bert and George wrote a load of them for series 2, fair enough. But the true condition of these people is home improvements or general middle class improvements leading to their deaths. I think that's
this was a clever bit of.
That's Stuart, our editor.
We thought that was.
Stuart, our editor, managed to get Tony Blair to say monkey dust is coming, which
we just thought was a slightly puerile achievement, but
it took him hours, I think.
Yeah.
I think he found an m, an a, an n, a k, and you know the rest. Yeah, well done, Stuart. And Liar, of course, is still going. He went all the way through series 2 as well. He was one of the most popular characters. But this one, 2001, is not just about a man who is pretending to have pretending to have done something. The plot of 2001 as a cover. It's also about the fact that neither of us have the faintest idea what's happening at the end of 2001.
Most of these,
his story is a sort of
Tolkien and the Eagles and everything. You'd start by saying what the story was and then cutting it down until you ended up. But we both sat down and said, "So what's the plot of 2001?" And we asked loads of people in the office, and they went, "It goes into space and there's a baby.
There's a sort of big bar and a baby, and all these lights go past, and then there's an old man in a room, and I'm not really sure what's going on." So this is the opposite of reductio ad absurdum. This is Phil ad all we can. Beautifully done, though. It's almost as pretty as the real thing.
I'm sure if the image I have in my head of people who had listened to a writer's DVD soundtrack is correct, then all of you at home know what's going on intimately. Now,
yeah,
but we didn't. So
no, not a clue.
I smeared dog food on my balls.
This is dog food on the balls. Yeah, this was
Will
Smith and Roger Drew, ladies and gentlemen.
So yeah, I smeared dog food on my balls, chain myself to a lamppost, and let nature take its course. And a little winking dog as the link into the next sketch.
Cyclists, and we are many.
And the cyclists. But I like the way they speak. We are the cyclists, and we are many.
Everything we purchase is eco-friendly.
It's a very good satirical point. I will give them that.
Made in a sweatshop in the Philippines.
And again, the hand linking into the handlebars. And they have a hive as well. It's the sort of insect. The suggestion that cyclists come from some sort of insect colony. I think we put the joke on the end that they couldn't. I think that's where the original sketch ended, and we put the bit that they couldn't cycle uphill.
Yeah.
Just because I used to have to cycle up a hill on the way home from work.
Brilliant link, a pub called The Classically Trained Actor. Now, this is, we really had a coup here with this final voiceover man. Because
we discovered that N. Rytell, the actor who was in our sketches, actually was the man who does the blue telephone in the Lombard Direct ads.
He does nearly all adverts. When you listen to his voice, and you'll hear it in virtually every advert ever, but he actually was the guy.
Yeah.
So,
and this bloke Bill is based on a real man called Bill Mitchell, who's dead now. Who used to do that husky voice.
for you.
I don't know why. I think it was actually N did that as well. But Bill Mitchell used to do all those ads, and he did the. I don't know if people remember a denim ad where he had to go
denim,
and it was just it just hurt your throat to even think of it. So we just tried to. We've no idea whether this was anything like Bill Mitchell. I'm sure he was nothing like that, and certainly we know because we know that the man behind the Lombard Direct ad is not like this. But we just tried to imagine what they would actually be like if they really were like their voices. And this contains one of my favourite lines, this bit, where Peter Dixon actually gets to cry and go sob, 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 and boo-hoo, boo-hoo. And as does N, he gets to go boo-hoo as well.
I'm going to say he'll always be with us in our memories.
He'll always be with us in our memories.
That's okay, look, just take your time. We are all upset.
That's right. Don't worry. He'll always be with us in our memories.
How annoying is that voice?
Boo-hoo. Boo-hoo-hoo.
Oh dear, and that's so in. I mean,
believe me, if you sat around with the very talented cast we assembled for Monkey Dust and asked them to all do their adverts, you'd be there for 4 days.
Yeah. We apologise for the slightly in nature of this, but everyone's seen these ads, and it's about time they were punished for inflicting all these bloody things on us. The only bloke we didn't get, who we also know, is the man who does Honey Nut Loops, but that just would have been just too maddening. Far too maddening.
There you go, Pizza the Action. There's a terrible,
and you can't curry love
line
next door. In My Country, I'm Jonathan Ross. We should point out that Sean actually writes all Jonathan Ross's jokes.
This is a lie.
Well, most of them.
He's a very talented man who comes up with his own, I think.
I think that's right. On the basis of a piece of paper supplied by you, ever since I introduced you to him. My mistake.
Now, this sketch is widely considered by people I talked to about the show to be the funniest sketch.
It's the funniest sketch in the series, no question.
Funniest sketch, and I'm humble when I say that I wrote all of it. Apart from the fact that it's written by Burton George.
Yes, it was written by Burton George. It's the funniest sketch in the series. It wasn't written by us, it was written by them. It's brilliantly done, brilliantly animated, but I feel in many ways they couldn't have written it without us.
No.
Well, how could they have written that without us?
What we did was get rid of the dust off the top. And
yeah, this actually was. This actually was in their bottom drawer.
This was.
They couldn't sell this sketch.
I guess because you needed a cartoon to do it. But the animation there, the woman leaning in is...
Okay, this is an attack on the sort of, well, he's called Techno Warrior, this character, although that's not mentioned in the sketch, but it's an attack on Techno Warriors, and we're basically, trying to have a go at the kind of nerdy, computer-obsessed individual who would sit and listen to 3 hours of writer's commentary on a DVD.
I think so. This sketch is basically about whoever is listening to this right now.
Yeah, it's you. It's you. This is your life. It's ours as well.
That always makes me cringe.
That's really foul. This is the saddest, cruelest bit of this whole series.
Crying.
Oh,
the number of people, we always try to have somebody crying in the month.
It is gratuitous. I'd take it all back. Any defence I've ever had. It's just completely gratuitous. And this is that Harry Nilsson piece of music again, which is almost as overused as Goldfrapp on this series, but it is perfect. I like that bit. I like Clive having the Ulysses idea.
So then, having milked this rich scene twice, we thought, let's go back.
As Sean was explaining earlier, you do a sketch, you repeat it, then you vary it. So the second one was exactly the same, and this is the variation. This is his wife having a gay dream. This is Ennio Morricone, a bit of Ennio, the man with the harmonica for trivia fans. And this should be Alive by POD, but they're a big, expensive American band, and we couldn't afford to pay them for the DVD. So it's the resourceful Mr. Steve Isles again, pretending to be POD. He can do Cliff, he can do Alive. And there's an old woman getting on the back of a bike with a lesbian with sort of bondage gear and rings through her lips. Sean and I's grasp of female sexuality is impeccable as usual.
Yes, I know a lesbian, so that.
Well, that's where we got all this from, wasn't it?
Exactly. Yeah.
You asked her. This is what they do on their weekends. Slightly cut out, I felt this. This is one of those mass crowd scenes where the animator fooled me into believing that a sort of two-dimensional version would somehow be. The symbolic version would be more appropriate than actually putting in all the work.
Having nice dreams. Rubbish.
Yeah, that was your line, wasn't it? You know it was.
So there we go. We've reversed it.
We've reversed it perfectly.
And talking of reverses...
the
classic reverse.
We waited, 7?
Yeah.
7 goes before we did it. This is simply the premise of Liar reversed, but beautifully animated. I mean, look at that.
Cooperate with our research into Earth culture, and you will be released unharmed.
So, yep, it really happens to him. He really does have a close encounter with aliens. And
Research indicates this may be a drink.
there was a big legal argument about special brew because the lawyers said you can't have special brew because it's product placement. So they changed special brew to BRUW. It was exactly the same can with the same special and BRUW. I had this massive argument saying it's just as much an advertisement if you misspell it. It just makes us look like complete twats. And the row went on for weeks and weeks, and finally they gave in. As long as we didn't put the word Carlsberg on it, because nobody would know that Carlsberg makes special brew. Anyway, we're back with Techno Warrior, man obsessed with the Matrix. This was written by Connor Lennon. This sketch, and Connor and Roger and Will and all our writers really. They very much come from that section of society that would be obsessed with the idea that we live in a virtual matrix.
Yes,
exactly. In fact, you as well, probably.
Indeed. This also was just before the first Matrix film came out. So again,
yes, again.
On the money.
On the money in 1986. Talking of the 80s.
Talking of the 80s. Now, this is the reverse of Ivan we did at the end, which is Ivan is being prepared for release by having to do all things 80s.
And if
I'm
any
sorry
of you,
if I'm laughing at our own jokes, but
if any of you at home want to know what Sean Pye looks like, he looks like Ivan with 80s hair. At least, well, he cut it off the other day, but for many years, certainly when we wrote this, Sean looked exactly like this. So the man to my right, that you can actually see him there in front of your picture.
But rather more dashing, handsome, and wall-eyed.
Wall-like?
Wall-eyed.
Oh, wall-eyed.
Great.
What can I say? No, we loved. I have to say, we did love Ivan in the 80s.
We loved getting that bit of. Do we have to pay any money for that?
Yeah, we had to pay Comic Relief a fortune for that. But it's my favourite joke in the series is the Filofax joke. I think that's probably the bit where it says the Filofax is cumbersome. It's too cumbersome.
Yes, I am.
He just looks funny in it's Steve May's drawing. He just looks funny with that pink slash on his cheek, that enormous hair.
What's it for? It's too cumbersome. I want a diary and a separate address book.
It's a dress book.
Strange joke about 80s detail that went in there.
Yeah. Now this is where it all gets really rather dark and nasty.
It sets the tone for the rest of Ivan in the
in the forthcoming series. And this is the death of those three gentlemen and Mr. Jennings, although obviously he's resurrected, but as Drummond. But this music when they kill
is pulp.
It's pulp. It's called Sunrise, I think. But it's a bloody great bit of music for this sketch. It's just perfect because all the moods sort of fit all the moods of the.
But the bizarre thing was,
sketch.
it was animated, and then they found the music.
Yeah, we found this piece of music in it, and it was just, we had to pull things up and down a bit, but it fitted. In the end, once it fitted.
But again, pure coincidence.
Brilliantly, pure coincidence. But Pulp Sunrise. It's on an album called The Trees, I think. If you feel the yen to own it, we are trying to get a Monkey Dust CD, but. I think they're going to wait and see how many people listen to the writer's commentary of the DVD before they.
So let's not cross our fingers
or count any chickens.
But this is where it went really, really sick and bizarre. That image there, I think, and the eagle-eyed will note that the handles are a black and a white penis, which I make no apology for this time.
Yeah,
I think that's.
that was a nice detail. And obviously a space opera stitched together from dead men's faces.
We thought it was the perfect way to end the series.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And the spinning shell explodes just at the...
we didn't keep a body count in Series 1. I haven't counted up how many people perished.
We murdered.
We've tried to keep a count, making Series 3, but we gave up when we got to 24 million.
Yeah, that's actually quite violent, Series 3.
That's not a joke, but that is mainly one mass death.
But this is we wanted Ivan to suddenly be a bit scary, to actually we want us finally to see what he was capable
rage
of.
That he's
the institutional rage, because up to this point, whenever he did anything bad, it was always off screen, and we wanted to keep him sweet and lovely, and then right at the end we wanted to just turn him around and see how he actually could be a frightening little fucker. And we let the music go over the credits because you couldn't not, could you?
But that's it. I hope that was informative. I strenuously doubt that it was.
Or indeed entertaining, enjoyable, or any other adjective you can think of beginning with E. Excrement, that's a noun, sorry.
Reward yourself listening to 3 hours of us rambling on.
And ask yourself, was it worth the admission price? If you actually put the price sticker back on, if it's within 21 days, you might get it back.
Probably. I think you could probably get 2 seasons of Family Guy for what you spent on this.
Got to be worth it. I think we've been turned off early.